Are you ready for Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous? Because I am.
People, hello. Quick introduction of what you can expect in this video. We are covering all companions and team compositions in order for every companion in the game that's gonna be valid on unfair difficulty. I'll repeat it again for one last time. If it works on unfair, it works on all other difficulties as well. I tried my best to give you the best options for companions. Can you play them in different ways? Yes, you can. You can play every companion in 5-6 different ways. I just believe that those builds that I gave are definitely the best for unfair. Alright. I wanna start like this quickly, and then we're gonna go to videos and pass through every companion. This would be team compositions for unfair difficulty with companions. They will work on every other difficulty as well, of course. So, there is the main, the melees, which is Regill, he's a boss killer. Camellia, if melee, she is valid with rapier. Seelah provides auras and she tanks. Woljif has a lot of sneak attack damage, alright? And of course he can dodge a lot with blur, displacement, mirror image, especially during Act 1. Sosiel, if you decide to play him as melee, he can be really tanky. Greybor provides burst, alright, but very boring to play. Trever is very good if you know how to make him well, even though he comes late into the game in Arushalae. And Queen Galfrey, I said meh, because she comes once you reach threshold and only on specific mythic paths, okay, and you can copy the entire Queen Galfrey build with Seelah's build that I'm gonna give. Okay. Ranged, we got Wenduag, Arushalae, and Lann. Lann being by far the best option, because freaking Monk is broken. After that it's Arushalae, and the mega carry early game would be Wenduag. Alright. Casters, Camellia can be a caster, transmutation or evocation, electro, fire, cold, it doesn't matter. Woljif can be evocation caster also. Ember can be necro, evo, into fire, poison, electro, and cold. Sosiel can be holy caster, necro caster, blade barriers caster. Nenio, illusion, cold, fire, evocation caster, full with utility spells, and of course Daeran as complete insanity and the best out of them all. From buffers, we got Sosiel as the best option, okay, that's if you're gonna learn his domains and so on, but then he loses everything else. Basically, no matter what I do with this cleric, I can't fix him. It's either melee or he's very squishy and just provides domains. Just, I don't know, man. He could have been 10 times better. Daeran has the best option for a buffer. Nenio kinda good because she provides also a lot of different spells. Camellia also kinda good, but better for herself than for the team. Woljif again better for himself as a self buffer than a team buffer. Seelah, because of auras, she is solid and she is a complete tank with tons of auras. Paladin is just class, okay, specific class that gives specific auras that no other class can give. Very valid for unfair. Ember, that sucks with buffs, and Arushalae, which has some minor buffs, but basically it's weak. Daeran, now we go to healers. Daeran is OP healer, Sosiel is a very good healer, Camellia and Ember are weak healers. All around companions and the best ones in the game, Daeran overpowered like freaking crazy. Oracle is like, I don't know what they were thinking when they created Oracle. Nenio is absolutely great also. Camellia is solid and Woljif is solid. Those would be all around that can be placed everywhere in every team composition. So now we got main, second spot, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth spot. So we're gonna see if your main is a caster damage dealing caster, Then, for the second spot, you apply Daeran, Sosiel to have buffs and heals. On a third spot, it's Regill, Camellia, Seelah, Greybor, or Trever. Then on a fourth spot for one range, it's Wenduag, Lann, or Arushalae, your choice. On a fifth spot, we can have again Wenduag, Lann, or Arushalae with addition of Woljif and Camellia. Pick which one you like. And on a sixth spot, we have Nenio. As you can see, Nenio is like pretty much a must if you want to play with companions, alright? Because that utility, no one can replace Nenio's utility. No one. Okay, she offers everything. Buffs, debuffs, AoE spells, single target spells, just way too good to skip. If caster is buffer, again you can read what you can use for team composition. If your main is melee, flat melee without a shield, so two-handed weapon, then you're gonna use this. If your main is ranged, then you're gonna use this. If your melee is with a shield, you will need shield wall team feat on at least two companions, and those two would be Sosiel and Seelah, and then you're gonna rack up these. Alright. If any late game from 4th to 6th act, alright, the best team composition would be main into Daeran, Seelah, Lann, or Regill, Arushalae or Regill into Nenio. In early game, okay, from Act 1 to 3, Camellia, definitely for Act 1, completely solid, alright? She can control the entire Act 1 basically with her spells. I explained how she works in this video on her guide, you're gonna see it later. Daeran is all around, not only heal, buffs, mega damage late game also. This is for early game that he provides heals and buffs, so don't be deceived by that, he is everything. Lann or Wenduag crazy early on, Lann crazy throughout the entire game, especially late game. Decide who you want to play with. Seelah, Woljif as a 5th spot, tank or dodge, you pick between auras and tanking or dodging and those utility spells from Woljif. I would pick Seelah, but Woljif is also very fun. Nenio, all around as I said. So, valid with builds I gave for every companion in the game would be this team compositions here. So now we can finally start with Seelah, and off we go. Unfair builds for Wrath of the Righteous. For companions, the first in line that we're gonna do today is Seelah. Have in mind that if it works for unfair, it will work on all other difficulties as well. But I'm here to make the best possible build for Seelah. That's gonna be valid from level 1 to level 20 along with all mythic pots. So let's begin with our paladin. This, what you can see here, would be the end game stats, attributes, attack, damage, and so on for Seelah. As you can see, armor, saves, everything is absurdly high. And now let me show you how I did it, how it was valid, and how it will work on unfair. The first thing we're gonna talk about are skills and what you need for Seelah. The most important thing that you need on Seelah is Knowledge World. After that, it's Persuasion and Trickery. Opt-in for what you need the most compared to the team you're gonna play with, and of course, it also depends on your main character too. But for me personally, this is the best that you can extract out of Seelah. Now let's check Seelah's inventory quickly. What you want for a helmet, I placed Mental Perfection because of the DLC and so on, but that ain't important. The good helmet for Seelah is the helmet that gives armor class. Alright, when you find a helmet that gives armor class, that's the one you wanna put on Seelah. Very good goggles for Seelah would be those that give attack and damage rolls against outsiders, or better to say, against demons. Basically what you want for goggles, anything that can boost her damage a bit. With Amulet, it's a no-brain, you always gonna take natural armor, +1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as you make progress. For cape, you will want Cloak of Resist from +1 to +5, 6, 7. Depends if you play DLC or not, but it doesn't matter. You want saves. Simple as that. For the first ring, you'll always want a Ring of Protection from +1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and onwards. For other ring, I placed Ring of Evasion. If you like some other ring, place it, see how it works, especially if you play on Unfair, but I believe this is the best ring that you can put on Seelah. For bracers, again, everything that's gonna give some extra damage against demons is good to have. As far as armor goes, heavy armor, full plates, make sure they're adamantine or mithril, from +1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as you make progress. This one is very good for under armor, heavy fortification. Before that, you can find some that gives resists or something similar to it. Belt, by far the best belt is Venerated Champion with Constitution and saving throws. Before that one, you want belts that give attributes, Strength, Constitution, Dexterity. For gloves, I placed Spell Resist on Seelah. At the start, it really doesn't matter that much, because you know that you won't find that many items in the first 2 acts, so put what's best and most expensive on her. For boots, again, boots are late game, boots are just missing in a game. Place anything that's gonna raise up defenses, saves, freedom of movement maybe, or something like that. As far as weapon goes, Seelah was made to use Radiance. You'll upgrade Radiance as you move through the campaign. There's nothing to say about it, just play with Radiance. You can find Radiance in the tutorial area after the puzzle, as you all know by now. Shields. You can use heavy shields, medium shields, and tower shields. My recommendation is heavy shields only. Basically, you want a shield with the highest armor class as possible as you make progress. With quick items, Pathfinder's Wrath, once you find it, you want to give it to Seelah immediately because of the smite. And I also gave her 10 card of the Free Spirit, so she can summon stuff. Summons are good as distraction, especially early on, and this one you can find it very early. Now we're gonna talk about Seelah's Mythic Path, okay, quickly. The first thing you wanna take is No Brain, Less Stand, and nothing else, absolutely nothing else, and that counts for every character there is in a game, but first one is Less Stand. On the second Mythic Path level you're gonna take Mythic Toughness. On the third one you're gonna take Inspirational Leader. Why? Because you want initiative and you want saving throws for your entire team. On your fourth Mythic Path you wanna take Improved Critical Longsword because you play with Radiance. On fifth Mythic Path you're gonna take Thundering Blows. Why? Seelah likes to miss a lot, especially on Unfair. And this is a 100% guarantee that you'll always deal at least some damage of doing none. Alright, what's very important also here, it happened to me personally that more than 300 times enemies were left on a quiver of health, 2 HP, 3, 6, 10. This is the thing that kills them. Even when everyone miss, this shit will kill them. For Mythic level 6, you want Weapon Focus on a Longsword, again because you play with Radiance. Raptured Restraints on Mythic level 7, that's gonna be I think around in Arushalae in Act 4, and that's when it's really the most important for Act 4, 5, 6 and DLC. Very simple. You cannot be frightened, dazed, sick and shaken, staggered, nauseated, stunned, paralyzed, confused. It's extremely good, especially since she's got some crazy good saves. Enemies won't pass those saves often, and when they do, she won't get hurt for 3 times in a row. Mythic Resolve, I took it because there is nothing better than it, okay? Same can be said about Mythic Reflex and what was else? Mythic Fortitude. If you don't plan to play with a mythical beast later on, you will want to take Resolve, Reflex, and Fortitude mythic. Destructive Shockwave is also extremely good, so make sure you take it as the last thing, because you want to fight Arilu and actually hit her, because Seelah is just, she cannot hit Arilu. Simple as that. As far as this one goes, I took it because I played with a horse. Now maybe you wanna play with a weapon bond, item bond, instead of your bond with your pet. Okay. If you ask me what's better, I would say weapon bond is better. Definitely better than a mythical beast. So make sure that if you don't want to play with a pet, that you change this mythical beast for some of the things I already told you about. This would be the final stats. You can pause and check them out. There's nothing to explain here. We got the class. Now this is the most important thing. Okay, Seelah comes like this. When you meet her for the first time in those caves in a tutorial area, she comes with a shield focus, and the game automatically tells you you will use Seelah with a shield. Okay, and the next level you're gonna get is from a paladin. You'll receive Lay on Hands and you're gonna receive Divine Grace. We push on towards the third level, where I took Shake It Off. It's extremely important to have Shake It Off on a third level on every bloody unit on your team to raise those saving throws. Not only for Seelah. When you take Shake It Off team feat, make sure you take it on everyone. She's also gonna get the first aura. The first mercy I picked was Fatigued, remove fatigue. And why? Very simple. When you traverse the world, everyone gets tired. Seelah removes fatigue, alright? And you can keep playing instead of resting. You don't waste time. And she receives Divine Health, immunity to diseases, poisons, and so on. Now, she's gonna receive Channel Positive Energy, which is not that important, maybe for early game, but she won't be doing it, to be honest, and Smite Evil additional use. This is the time when she receives the first spell. Alright, now let's see the first spell. The first spell you wanna learn is Veil of Heaven. It lasts 10 minutes per level, it's extremely useful. You want to activate that the moment when you start your dungeon crawling. And that's all I can say about it. Do not trigger Veil of Heaven again. Keep it as an active buff. Back to... where were we? Level 5. For level 5, you will take Toughness. She's also gonna get Animal Companion, but that's when you pick whether you want a Weapon Bond, Item Bond, or Companion Bond. This is your choice. I took an animal and I believe that the other one is better. Because I played with both. That's why I'm saying it. For this one, she receives one spell level 2. The spell that you're gonna learn is Aura of Greater Courage. Again, it lasts 10 minutes per level. Activate it the moment when you activate Veil of Heaven and play. That's it. Do not touch them. Keep them as active buffs. Next is... where were we? 6. Mercy. Staggered. Remove Stagger. Why? Because that's the moment when you need to take it, trust me. 7. Heavy Armor Focus +1. Smite Evil additional use. 8. She receives her third spell. And the most important one would be Angelic Aspect. No doubt you trigger Angelic Aspect combined with Greater Courage and Veil of Heaven. Now we were here. 8. And she also receives Aura of Resolve. Alright. Improved Critical Longsword on 9. Mercy remove Exhausted. Why? That's when you are in Act 2, Act 3, and then you want to exhaust your entire team, enter the map, remove exhaustion from everyone with Lay on Hands. and you play without resting. Very important. Plus, you already know that there are some enemies that can fatigue and exhaust you some enemy spells. It can be useful. 10. Additional smite. 11. Now, after you do 11 and you receive Mark of Justice, this is the time when we start multi-classing. Alright, for 11, I took Missile Shield. Now, you gotta have one thing in mind. I took Missile Shield because I was playing Aeon Inquisitor. We won't take Missile Shield if you don't play someone that can share team feats like my Aeon could. Alright. What you want for Seelah, and what's extremely important for Seelah, is outflank and precise strikes. So you can switch heavy armor focus and missile shield for precise strikes and outflank. Alright, so it's gonna be shake it off if you don't play with Aeon. It's gonna be shake it off, precise strikes, and outflank on 11 instead of these two. That's how it looks like. If you do play like this, like I did, okay, if you can share these team feats, then it's Missile Shield. One of the greater things about Aeon Tactical Leader is that you can share those team feats. You cannot, so make sure that you switch these two. After we receive Mark of Justice, which is a great spell, you ram it up on an enemy and everyone deals damage to that marked enemy. On level 12, we are taking Stalwart Defender because of defensive stance. How does it work with defensive stance? Basically, you put blade barriers, for example, I don't know, with Daeran. You put Seelah in front. Imagine there's a door. You trigger defensive stance. No one passes. She tanks everything. You're gonna apply bluer, displacement, all of those defensive buffs, okay, that you can grab. And she's gonna tank, and they're gonna receive damage. She's gonna survive for a long time because of the less stand 2 and the highest armor class, high saves, and so on and so forth. That's how you play this. So I said when we reach 11, on 12 we're taking Stalwart. And now we are pushing on till we reach Aura of Righteousness. So what I did, that will be 12. Now it's 13. For 13 we take Blind Fight on Seelah. At that time she's gonna learn Mercy Curse to remove Curse with Lay on Hands, because there are some enemies that can curse you. It's useful. On 14 she gets her other aura, Aura of Fate. Additional Smite Evil. 15 is gonna be Critical Focus as a feat. You're gonna learn to remove Paralyze with Mercy. 16 Paladin, Smite Evil, and we reach 17. I took Boon Companion. You don't have to, okay, if you play with a weapon bond. You can take, as I said, Reflexes, Fortitude, Will resists. Or you can take Team Feat if your main character has it. Back to back. Or Seize the Moment. They're all good. Alright, you can have back to back, Seize the Moment. So how it's gonna look like? It's gonna look like Shake It Off. This is gonna be Precise Strikes, Outflank, back to back, Seize the Moment, or Seize the Moment, back to back. Alright. Once she has her Aura of Righteousness is when we're gonna transfer and put points into Fighter. Why? Because it's free feat. Alright. And for that free feat you wanna take Weapon Focus on a long sword, because again she plays with Radiance. That will be level 18. No, that will be level 19. We put one over here, that will be level 18. Here, 17 in Paladin, 18 Stalwart, level 19 is a longsword, level 20, you see, Precise Strike over here. Add something else, add Lightning Reflexes or something like that, you know, to raise her saves even further if you want to, and she receives bravery for free. That would be skills for Seelah. Let's see if we missed something. Ah yeah, abilities. I can hover over all of these abilities and you can pause and check it out during the video. This is from those perma attribute upgrades. Okay, from those books that you can read. You should not use them on your main character because he's gonna receive +2 to everything if you play properly. So you give it to companions. Again, from the book, +2 to strength. Before that it was +2 to constitution. This is what my Aeon gives to the team. You don't need to look at that unless you play Aeon. All the feats that we learned, we already passed through all of that. And the trade comes from the race. Seelah's spellbook and what you should use. Alright, this would be the things that you need for Seelah. Veil of Heaven, Stunning Barrier before entering the fight, Divine Favor before you enter the fight. Bless is not needed at all, this is just forget about it. You'll have other characters to do that. If not, then do it with Seelah. And Bless Weapon. Here, extremely important Lefort's armor. Protection from Chaos Evil. And Bestow Grace. On the third one, Angelic, Archonzora, and a Greater Magic Weapon. On fourth, Holy Sword is the best one, followed by Angelic Aspect Greater, and Eagle Soul. How do we play Seelah? Early on, we use Veil of Heaven. Early mid-game, we use Aura of Greater Courage, Veil of Heaven, displacements, blowers, heroism, and so on and so forth from other characters applied on Seelah. Mid-game, we start using Angelic Aspect. Late mid-game, we start using Holy Sword on your main damage dealer, whether it's your main character, Arushalae, Regill, it doesn't matter, you wanna apply on that type of character. Mega late game, we trigger before entering a stronger fight or a boss fight, it doesn't matter. In this order, Veil of Heaven, Aura of Greater Courage, Effortless Armor, Angelic Aspect Greater, this is mega late game I'm talking about, Divine Favor, Stunning Barrier, you trigger Shielding Friend, you put Blessed Weapon on everyone that deals damage like Regill, like Arushalae, Wenduag, Lann, and so on. You can cast your summons with Tankard. And if you can, you'll apply Eagle Soul. Do not forget to use Mark of Justice and mark the enemy you want to kill or a boss. Very good thing I'm using on my shield is Dark Aura. Those would be all spells you need to play Seelah properly. She also has the spell Magic because of Radiance. Don't forget about it, it's very good to cast on enemies. At the end, basically, you want to bar exits with Seelah, you want enemies to focus Seelah, you want her first in a fight, behind like summons or, I don't know, close to the doors, behind blade barrier, alright, that's where you want Seelah and nowhere else. Seelah should always attack the character, enemy that's attacked by all other companions. That's when she starts dealing damage. That would be all for Seelah. Arushalae, full build optimized for unfair, and if it works on unfair, it will work on all other difficulties as well. Let's go. You can check out the stats of Arushalae here for the start. As you can see, she's very good at saves during my run, and this is on unfair. What you want for the skills is high perception, high stealth, solid trickery, and solid use magic device, as well as knowledge arcana. Those would be the most important. After that, you're gonna follow up with mobility and persuasion. So try to max these things out in order I said to do it. Now let's check what I used on Arushalae and what you should use on your Arushalae. For helmet, you want perfection, you want charisma up, you want wisdom up, and so on. Early on in the game, if you can find a helmet that will raise your range damage or deal more damage to demons, you want that one. If not, use some plain thing with wisdom. For goggles, I used goggles of Malocchio, whatever. Frankly, in this game, as far as goggles go, there are like 3 or 4 great one for Arushalae that will raise range damage or ranged attack and so on, or damage and attack against demons. You can give her those. For cloak, it's quite simple. Resist. +1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, that's the most that you can get out of her. The Amulet of Quick Draw, you can find it early on in the game, and it's by far the best thing that you can equip on Arushalae or any other character that plays with a ranged weapon. As far as armor goes, it needs to be light, +1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and as you advance, make sure that it's adamantine or mithril, and perhaps to have some passive buffs as well. Why I placed Lore Master? Because it gives reflex saving throws +2. Use whichever one you like the most, but make sure that you raise some of the stats when you equip a robe. The ring we want to use on Arushalae is Ring of Luck as the first one. And the second ring we want to use on Arushalae or any other ranged character would be Merciless Shot. Bracers that we want to use are for archery, of course. We want to raise that attack. Belt we want to use is a silence belt, flat dexterity belt with bonus attack. Have in mind there are gloves also for quarry, because you're gonna use quarry with Arushalae. Those are extremely good on her as well, but they come in late. As well as gloves of heavy impact. Basically use one out of those two, and before that use anything that will raise damage or attack. As far as boots go, you can use freedom of movement boots, you can use difficult terrain boots, or you can use the one I'm using right now. Bows. Okay, this really depends on what range weapon you wanna play with. I played my Arushalae with a short bow. You can play with a long bow, you can play with a crossbow, light or heavy. Your choice, everything is valid. I use short bow, use whatever weapon you like the most as long as it's ranged. From quick items, I was using Devil Lamp, I was using Quiver of Sacred Vengeance, Duality of Conjuration and Summoning, we give her some summons with that. And of course, once you reach the Abyss, Alushinira, you will want to buy Crimson Banner and activate Crimson Banner as passive. Now let's check Arushalae's mythic path. The first one you wanna take is the bigger they are. Second one, improve critical mythic. I took with a short bow, you play with a long bow, take long bow. Play with a crossbow, you take crossbow. Light, heavy, doesn't matter, just switch the name of the weapon. I use short bow, but we want improve critical mythic. For the third one, we take ranging shots. For the fourth one, again weapon focus. I use short bow. If you use longbow, crossbow, make sure to change it. For level 5 mythic, we take less dead. For level 6, we take point blank shot, and you want to play in a point blank non-stop activated on Arushalae. For the 7th mythic path, we want expose vulnerability. For 8, we want mythic resolve. For 9, we want rapture restraints, because we don't want our Arushalae to get crowd controlled, eh? And for the 10th, we take Iron Will mythic. This is just to check the stats and how it looks like mega late game with Arushalae. Here we are with classic leveling. So, we wanna keep Arushalae from level 1 to level 20 as espionage expert. And she comes with a point blank shot flat. She comes with a rapid shot, and she comes, I think, with deadly aim. From that moment, no, she comes through cluster shots. From this moment is where you can start upgrading Arushalae on your own. She comes like this, so let's put it like that. Point blank, that's why I say play with point blank non-stop. Do not use rapid shot, do not use deadly aim, do not use cluster shots, do not do anything out of this, just use point blank on unfair and nothing else. She comes with favored enemy humans, she comes with a precise shot, this is all good, undercover, she comes with Ranger's Bond, you can use Ranger's Bond non-stop by the way. Espionage expert in magic, then favored enemy demons of magic, many shot, and from this moment is where we finally start upgrading. I took improved critical short bow. You will want to take, it depends again on the weapon you're playing with, short bow, long bow, crossbow, light or heavy. And this is the time when the Arushalae also gets evasion. Then for the next level, favored enemy, we take Demons of Slaughter, alright? And we take Point Blank Master. Extremely important that you take this one. After that, we take Weapon Focus Short Bow on level 11. And she finally receives her Quarry. I'll explain how everything works after that. On level 12, she receives nothing. Hammer the Gap is for the next one, and the favorite terrain we take Abyss. Improved precise shot would be the next thing on level 14. On level 15 we take critical focus, that's when we're gonna take Demons of Strength as favored enemy. On level 16 she gets improved evasion. On level 17 there's snapshot, and again on level 19 improved snapshot. Now I could have done this, which doesn't mean you can do it because you do not play as Aeon. What you want to have instead of these is Shake It Off, Seize the Moment, and Precise Strike. Precise Strike for ranged only works when you use point blank. That's why point blank everywhere. For the last one I took Iron Will. Over here, again, you can take team feats instead of this, this, and this. I told you what team feats right now. Seize the Moment, Shake It Off, Precise Strike. 1, 2, 3. For the final level 20, favorite enemy will be Outsiders. You're also gonna get improved Quarry insta-cast on Quarry. And she receives Espionage Master. Now we're gonna check the abilities. Pause when you want. This is what my Aeon gives, we won't check that. So from here. Spellbook. What's most important on Arushalae? It's Hurricane Bow. You can profit out of Entangle early on when you find her. And of course, it's Aspect of the Falcon and Long Strider. I'll explain how it works and what you should do very soon. From this one, we want Sense Vitals, we want Spike Growth, very useful during Act 3. And Sickening Entanglement, very useful during Act 3 also. Instant enemy everywhere for 3. And nothing else, only instant enemy. For 4, Aspect of the Wolf, Blessing of Salamander, and Freedom of Movement. How do we play Arushalae? I said point blank. We trigger Crimson Banner. And the buffs we want to cast before entering the fight. Basically, you want to give Holy Sword to Arushalae. You want to give Instrument of Freedom or something like that also to Arushalae. And what you cast at the start? Hurricane Bow, into Aspect of the Falcon, into Long Strider, into Aspect of the Wolf, into Chameleon Stride, alright? Into Sense Vitals. And then when you want to trigger the fights with Arushalae, you can go with Second Entanglement or with Spike Growth. If you trigger with someone else, and I recommend triggering with someone else, the first thing you want to do is Ranger's Bond on everyone, okay? Just like that, when enemy is close by, and then you wanna cast instant enemy into immediate quarry, and then start hitting with Arushalae. That's all there is with Arushalae, not a big deal. Hit the target your entire team hits to proc those team feats on her. That's it. We continue with Companion Unfair Build Guides. The next in line is Regill. So let's go straight over there and check Regill out, how you should level him up from 1 to 20. Here you can see my stats for Regill and how it looked like on my Unfair run. As you can see, armor class is high, saves are very high, and attack is absolutely absurd. Damage and critical, they go along with attack. Truth to be told, Regill is the boss killer and highest damage single target damage dealer in a game. Extremely vulnerable, but he can hurt a lot with correct buffs. What skills do we need for Regill? The most important is lore, religion, and knowledge arcana. Everything else doesn't matter. So make sure you have these two when you play with Regill in your team. Now we're gonna check itemization for Regill. What I always try to use on Regill was any helmet that will give armor class or saves. Amulet is classic, armor class, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. I could never find a valid goggles for Regill, cause others needed those that he could use, but basically everything that's gonna raise damage against outsiders, demons, that's gonna raise attack or flat damage, those would be the goggles that you wanna use on Regill if you plan to play non-stop with him in your party. This is the unfair guide, so remember, if it works on unfair, it will work on all other difficulties as well. For cloaks, again, all resists, up, saves, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and onwards. You can use medium armor or heavy armor for Regill as long as it is adamantine or mithril and as long as it gives proper passive abilities. Same can be said about robe, or better to say under armor. Everything that provides defense, saves, you should equip that. As far as ring go, the first ring should always have plus armor class 1 to 7. And the other one I like giving to Regill is Ring of Summoning. First, because of the AoE buff towards your entire teammates. And the second one, you can summon stuff and distract enemies. Any bracers that will raise Regill's damage are good to go. Like this over here. Same can be said about gloves. Any gloves that provide damage or attack are good to go for Regill. For belt, I believe this is quite basic, okay? Everything that's gonna raise strength, dexterity, and constitution is a must. Early on, you should focus dexterity and constitution. Boots, the best one that you can get for Regill are with constant freedom of movement. There are other boots later on, but that's way much later. So make sure that you put some immunity boots, terrain, or freedom of movement on Regill. Weapon, only gnome hooked hammers as they come, and they will come from +3 and onwards, +2 and onwards. I think it doesn't matter, just take better and what's more expensive. Eventually you will end up at Wrecking Devil. That's the one you wanna use, because it's the best gnome hooked hammer in the game. Regill's Mythic Path, Mythic Leveling. The first one is a Brain Dead, no brain, less stand. On a second level, we take 2 weapon fighting Mythic. On the third one, we take Unrelenting Assault. On the fourth one, we're gonna get improved Critical Mythic with a Gnome Hooked Hammer, of course. On fifth one, we take Thundering Blows, so we always hit even when we miss. On a sixth one, we take Weapon Specialization Mythic on a Gnome Hooked Hammer. Rupture Restraints, so he becomes immune to all of those disgusting things in a game. For the seventh one. For the eighth one, we go Weapon Focus Mythic on a Gnome Hooked Hammer. As you can see, everywhere is Gnome Hooked Hammer. Basically, we raise damage and attack, non-stop when we can. Leading Strike, so everyone hurts the target that Regill is striking. On level 9, and on level 10 Mythic, we take Flawless Attacks. That's about it with Regill, very simple. Now we go to Classic Leveling. A lot of people ask me, how do you make your Regill valid? Because everyone complains that he's way too weak. Yes, he is, for unfair he is, but he is so freaking mega strong if you play as Aeon. That's how my Regill was valid. Why? Because all of the speed that you see here goes toward his own benefits, and I give him team feats in return, so he is twice stronger. And I also gave him, as Aeon Inquisitor, on top of his last stand invulnerability, I could give him like 60 more seconds of invulnerability into 50 more seconds of invulnerability, so I could make my Regill, that has the highest freaking attack and damage in a game with all buffs applied and so on, imagine how it looks then, invulnerable for like 2 minutes in a row, and he was valid on unfair. He was actually stomping everything, okay, plus his own last stand. That's how you can make him valid. You can also make him valid on unfair with other mythic pots too, with your main class. But this is one of the best ways. Alright. How you can also make Regill valid on unfair without being an Aeon. You put Seelah first, and you make enemies attack Seelah. And then you put Regill into a fight, so he survives longer and deals more damage, as he survives more. So, what I did with Regill and how did I level him up? I was sticking with his lore, alright, with Hell Knight, and I maxed it out. And I also stuck with his lore with Arbiger, and I added 1 point into Monk because of a free feat, alright, and because of great stats with a Monk. As you can see what you receive here, all saving throws plus attack. For that one level only. So, Regill, you receive him as a Hell Knight and Armiger and so on. So let's see what he gets out of it. I believe he's a level 1 in Hell Knight and everything else went into Armiger. So what they gave him? They gave him on the first level a Gnome Hooked Hammer, that's classic. Weapon Specialization Gnome Hooked Hammer. Improved 2 weapon fighting, those would be the feats you want on Regill, and a greater 2 weapon fighting. Okay, everything else are passives that he gets along the way as you level up. Again, this point into Monk, you want to put it on level 18, 19, 20, doesn't matter, so you get all of those free stats. Alright? Because it's worth way much more than putting that single point into Armiger. Alright? Now we want Hell Knight. That's what I was using with Regill. So, I read what we took over here. We took Weapon Focus, Weapon Specialization, All Gnome Hook Hammer, Improved 2 Weapon Fighting, and Greater 2 Weapon Fighting. From up here, all he gets are passives, 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 and some of them you can also pick what he's gonna learn. We're gonna check it out once we are done with classic feats. So he goes with 2 weapon fighting, he goes with a weapon finesse, he goes with a fighter's finesse. Those would be all the things you want to learn along the way in that order. Toughness, improved critical with a gnome hooked hammer, hammer the gap, critical focus, blind fight, double slice, and a greater weapon focus with a gnome hooked hammer. Now, if you don't play as Aeon and if you cannot share team feats, we know that we're gonna need Seize the Moment, Outflank, Precise Strikes, and Shake It Off on Regill. 4 levels. What can we exclude from here and give it to Regill? What we can exclude here is Greater 2 weapon fighting and take Shake It Off. Improved 2 weapon fighting and take Precise Strikes. Instead of a toughness, we can take Outflank. And now we need Seize the Moment. You need to sacrifice something for him to be valid. And that something can be Blind Fight. Hell Knight comes with domains. You'll see them once they proc, as you level up, of course. And the domains you want are War Domain into a free feat. You're gonna take Staggering Critical as a free feat. You want Knowledge Domain so you can have Teaching Moment available. And you want Protection Domain so you can have Aura of Protection. That's all there is to it with Hell Knight, without complicating things. So let's check it out fast, once more. Force of Will Compulsion is what you want into War Domain. There, you're gonna get a bonus combat feat. Force of Will Fear is the one you're gonna learn next. Into Knowledge Domain. Force of Will Charm, immunity against Charm. Into Protection Domain. That's how you level up Regill as a Hell Knight. So, once you receive Regill as companion, you max out Hell Knight. Then you ramp up Armiger to 9. Okay. And then you put 1 point into a monk and you take Dodge. That's everything there is for Regill. I told you what to switch for what. You will need to sacrifice Greater 2 weapon fighting, Improved 2 weapon fighting, Blind Fight, and Toughness, and add Shake It Off, Precise Strikes, Outflank, and Seize the Moment instead of those 4. You level them up in this order. This would be the quick stats for Regill to check it out better if you want to. Now we're gonna hover over abilities, pause where you want. This comes with my Aeon, all of these immunities. defeats, and racial traits. Regill doesn't have a spellbook. And now the main question is, how do we play Regill? Before the fight, before you enter the fight, like 10 seconds before you enter the fight, you're gonna click on Order of the Godclaw, you're gonna click on Void Form, you're gonna click on Aura of Protection, and you're gonna make some of these as passives for your weapon, depends on the enemies you're fighting against. Once you enter the fight, the enemy you're fighting with, you're gonna smite him, but make sure that, for example, Seelah or your main character, if it's a melee, trigger the fight first, so Regill enters second and burst enemies out. So smite them and enjoy. What else can you do with Regill? Because I told you what ring to use, you can cast summon monsters to distract enemies because of the ring of summoning. One of the most stupid things you can do with Regill is to charge first into battle with a charge ability. That's the way to get Regill killed. This is your bread and butter spell. You only have one usage of Teaching Moment. When it's really tough, make sure to use this a second before entering the fight. That will be all for Regill. He is valid on unfair, you just need to know what you're doing. On other difficulties, he's a bloody beast. Hard and below. Now, he is probably the most boring class to play in the game because you don't do much, you just cast 3 or 4 spells before fight, you pre-buff, better to say, and then you just right click on enemies and he does his job. He is though very funny and very good as far as lore goes, as far as all of his commands go in combat, in conversations and so on. He is good to have in a party, he lifts the spirits. But, as I said, very boring. He is user-friendly though, and everyone that plays on easier difficulties will absolutely love Regill, because you don't need to think a lot, you just right click and he smacks everything to the ground. In other words, Regill might be the best companion for easier difficulties and one of the worst companions for unfair difficulty if you don't play as Aeon. If you play as Aeon, Regill is the strongest melee companion in the game. Daeran, ultimate build for unfair. If it works on unfair, it will work on all other difficulties as well. Daeran might be the strongest companion in the game for unfair. What he provides and how I build him, he gives us tons of healing, crowd control, buffs, debuffs, amazing AoE damage, a very solid single target damage, and he's probably the fastest unit on a map. So, all around best companion in the game. Let's go and see what I did with him and how I made him valid for unfair. As I said, Daeran is an unfair beast and his stats here don't show it at all, alright? Not so big saves, armor class is low, attack is low, but he's still the best. How is that possible? Very simple. It's an oracle and the spells are just way too good, and the biggest number of spells in the game belongs to Daeran. Now let's take a look at skills for Daeran. What we need on Daeran is Persuasion, Knowledge Arcana, and Knowledge World. That's all you need, and that's everything I have to say about skills. Forget about the rest, only these 3, and we move on. Now let's take a look at Daeran's inventory. For a helmet, of course, we're gonna need Perfection, or this one for Charisma Intelligence with Insight bonus on saving throws later on. Till then, the most important stat that you can grab early in the game for a helmet will be Helmet with Charisma. During Act 1 and Act 2, you will want to carry Phylactery of Positive Channeling. After you switch to Act 3, so once you're done with Dresden, you will start using Charisma helmets towards perfect helmets that will give plus to Charisma, Wisdom, and Intelligence +6, +8, and so on. For Amulet, for Daeran, this one is the only valid amulet in the entire game. For Goggles, you can use Cinder Goggles or any other Goggles earlier that will boost his spell damage early on. There is only one armor you can carry, and that would be Robe of Fire. Same can be said about Under Armor, you want those that boost damage per dice rolled. By far, the best cape for Daeran is Cloak of Carnage, because it boosts Evocation. The first ring for Daeran is Ring of Pyromania. You will figure out why later on. The second ring, and the most important one for Daeran, would be Red Salamander. For Bracers, Bracers of Armor from +1 to 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way to +9. Malender's Insult is the best belt that you can equip on Daeran. It will turn fire damage to unholy, and with it will add extra damage. Very good gloves to equip on Daeran would be Gloves of the Ambassador. For Boots, everything that gives immunities, from Freedom of Movement to this Boots of Outbreak that will give immunity to Prone and Movement Speed, or boots that give flat movement speed, are good to go on Daeran. For the weapon, I believe the best one is Ashmaker, a staff for Daeran that will raise his evocation even further. As far as quick item goes, all you need are Quicken, Greater Quicken Meta-Magic Rods, and Empower Meta-Magic Rods. So all of these are the same rods. I'll explain how it works later on. Daeran's mythic leveling. The first one would be Abundant Casting, so you can cast more spells. The second one would be Spell Penetration, mythic. The third one would be Battle Meditation. You turn Daeran into a statue and boost all allies around you, very important early on. The fourth one would be Spell Focus, mythic, on Evocation. The fifth one would be Ascended Element Fire, so you want to deal more damage with fire. The sixth one would be Less Than. Once you're level 7 in Mythic, you're gonna go with Improved Abundant into School Mastery Evocation. Okay, so what we focus is tons of spells, Less Stand, and Evocations. Spell Focus, School Mastery. 9 would be Greater Abundant Casting, so we have all of those spells in unlimited numbers. And the last one, once you reach Ariel, or better to say, once you start playing the DLC, would be Flame. Flame Mystery merges the best with this build for Daeran. That's 100% valid for Unfair, and he's gonna stomp everything on its path. Now we're gonna check the skills for Daeran and what you should do. Let's start with the easiest part, Revelations. You're gonna receive them from time to time. So the first revelation you wanna take is Safe Curing. The next revelation that you'll receive, you're gonna take Spirit Boost. The next revelation, you're gonna take Enhanced Curse Cures. The next revelation is Combat Healer, and the final revelation would be Life Sense. He'll also receive his final revelation, but it's connected to his mystery, so you don't need to worry about it. Daeran comes with a selective channel into the extra channel, and from this moment you start leveling up Daeran. The first feat you want to take is Spell Penetration, then you want Greater Spell Penetration, then you want Spell Focus into Evocation, into Greater Spell Focus Evocation, into Elemental Focus Fire, into Greater Elemental Focus Fire. This is bugged out, but I can already tell you what it is. It's to buff spell Firestorm, so he deals most damage with Firestorm. And the final one I picked is Great Fortitude. This was because I was playing with Aeon. Daeran needs Shake It Off, so you gotta switch Fortitude for Shake It Off. That's the only team feat that Daeran needs. Shake It Off. And this is when you're gonna put it instead of a Fortitude. You can also check the stats for Daeran here. And now we're gonna transfer to abilities. And after that we're off to the spellbook. I'm gonna hover over every ability for Daeran. You pause when you need to. And off we go. I think he comes with life. I gave him charisma with a book. That's what my Inquisitor gives, immunities. Here we are at Spellbook. From cantrips, Dismiss Spell, Divine Zap, and Guidance for the start. As far as level 1 spell goes, Bless is very important, Burning Hands is also good, Unbreakable Heart is good, and of course Remove Fear. Those 4 would be great for early on. From the second level spells, Bone Shaker, Protection from Alignment Communal, Bull Strength, and Aligned Weapon are the good spells. Of course, everything you see here and how I did it, that's the spells you need to learn, including at the very start with Lesser Restoration. From level 3, Animate Dead will buy you time early on, Prayer is absolutely great, Magical Vestment is valid till the end, Fireball is very good, and of course, valid till the very end is Resist Energy Communal. From level 4, Control Fireball, Death Ward, extremely important, Protection from Energy Communal, extremely important, Freedom of Movement, very, very important, and the most important one would be Restoration, how you see them again, that's how you learn them. From level 5, Life Bubble and Spell Resistance, including Flame Strike and True Seeing, would be the most important spells for Daeran here. Breath of Life is also solid. From level 6, definitely the most important one is Blade Barrier, this is your game winner. Bull Strength, Mass Bull Strength is extremely good, and of course you can't play without True Seeing Communal. Heal is also very good, so these 4 are extremely important, then you learn the rest. From level 7, the most important one is Firestorm, because this entire build revolves around Firestorm. Resurrection and Restoration greater, so these would be the most important, these 3. Copy everything later on. On level 8, again we have Firestorm, one comes from a ring, the other one comes from Daeran's leveling. I think this one comes from leveling on 8, this one came from a ring. So what's important here, 3 most important ones would be Holy Aura, Firestorm, and Mass Heal. You need them as fast as you can during leveling, then you can add this other 3. But these 3 are the most important. And the final level, Heroic Invocation, absolutely great. Mass Heal, Winds of Vengeance, and Fiery Body. Those 4 are extremely important. Start off with this 2, Heroic and Heal. Transfer into this 2, and then add whatever spell you like. I did Polar Midnight, but I wasn't using it that often, to be honest. How do we play Daeran? Make sure that you have Melander's Insult on non-stop, okay? It needs to be triggered non-stop. And early in the game, as I said, you're gonna bless your teammates, you're gonna cast Remove Fear Aura. You will cast Weapon Align with Good, so your allies can deal damage. You will cast Bull Strength before entering the fight. You'll go with Protection from Evil Communal. And once they get negatives, you're gonna remove them with lesser Restoration. Single target damage would be Bone Shaker. Of course, when they start dealing damage with elemental spells, you can always go with resists. Resist Fire, Sonic, Acid, Cold, and Lightning. From level 3, extremely important to put on your melees is Magical Vestment, okay, for both armor and shield. Resist Energy Communal, also extremely important. Prayer before you enter the battle. And Animate Dead for crowd control, so they lose time on killing skeletons. Fireball, you can open up fights with Fireball early on. From level 4, we got Protection from Energy Communal, which is extremely important. We got Death Ward, that you don't receive negative levels, and we got Freedom of Movement, so no one can disable your allies. So these would be the most important during battle. Of course, you need Restoration. nothing to say about it, it just removes every negative there is. Holy Smite might come in handy during dressing. You can open up fights with Controlled Fireball. From level 5, Spell Resist, you cast it on all allies, and Life Bubble, okay, those would be your mega buffs. True Seeing when you can't hit an enemy, and of course Flame Strike deals amazing damage during mid-game. From level 6, bread and butter spell, Blade Barriers, you stack them and stack them, all 10 usages, play Seelah in front of it or someone else that has less stand, and watch enemies melt. Aside from Blade Barrier, you need True Seeing Communal and Bull Strength Mass, those would be your top spells. Of course, you also need Heal. Now we transfer into late game, level 7, this is when Daeran becomes a freaking monster, alright? With a Firestorm, how do you use Firestorm? Very simple, you activate Grandmaster's Rod and you cast Firestorm. Then the fight starts. Daeran has solid initiative, which means he's gonna play again in a surprise round after a second or two. You cast it again, okay? The combat started. This is the second cast of Firestorm. You pause, you quickly turn into Greater Quicken Meta Magic Rod and cast 3 Firestorms in less than 3 seconds. That's a lot of damage. It covers the entire screen. It melts enemies. Combine with Blade Barrier, alright? Firestorm with Blade Barrier, with, for example, Nenio Tsunami. If you can cast all of that in 3 seconds, and I know you can because I was doing it non-stop, that's amazing amount of damage. Cold, fire, crowd control, and on top of that, I think Blade Barriers were on Reflex. Yes, on Reflex, and they always gonna deal damage because it's Reflex half. So, that's how you play with a Firestorm. We ended up on a Firestorm here. Late game, I said that's the most important, the rest doesn't matter. Resurrection, you can always buy scrolls. 8, again, it's Firestorm. You see how many usages of Firestorm I got. And of course, Mass Heal. Mass Heal, do not forget to use Mass Heal and have that extra slice of health on all allies, as you can see now. 55 plus their own health. And of course, before entering the fight, you will want Holy Aura. And the last spells, of course, you want to cast Heroic Invocation the moment when you enter the map, no matter if it's a fight or not. Because it lasts very long, 10 minutes per level. It really lasts long. It never expires, basically. You want Winds of Vengeance and you want Fiery Body non-stop on, because they're a minute per level, they're gonna last 20 minutes easily, alright? And that would be it for spells. So, Daeran can control like 4 or 5 fights before resting. He can control at least 2 fights with Firestorm and Grandmaster Rods and Quicken Rods. Okay, at least 2 fights before resting with those. Then he can control fights with Flame Strike and Blade Barrier. At least 2 more fights without rest. So that will be 4 fights on Unfair without rest. And after that, he can act as a statue with Battle Meditation and boost his allies while healing them, and while casting single target damage with a Bone Shaker. So, Daeran can easily last from 6 to 10 fights on Unfair without resting late game. Alright, early game, Daeran is a buffer and a healer. Mid game, Daeran is a buffer, healer, debuffer, and small damage dealer. Late game, Daeran is great pre-buffer, amazing damage dealer, AoE damage dealer, and great to control enemies also. Once he's out of spells, he can always act as a statue because of a mythic path from Battle Meditation. As I said, as a final note, I strongly believe that Daeran is the most powerful companion. That's absolutely valid. with mercs, with going with your main and only Daeran, okay, you can clear. This is just an amazing class. Oracle basically is an amazing class, and you should always have Daeran in your party, no matter what act. Nenio guide for unfair. Remember, if it works on unfair, it will work on all other difficulties as well. What's Nenio? Nenio is a classic mage that excels on casting spells from scrolls. A scroll wizard. So, let's go and let's start with Nenio. Here you can check the stats of Nenio and how I made her for my unfair run. She was quite good, especially against certain enemies in the game. Okay, those with low will, she was destroying them. After that, she attacks fortitude of enemies the most. Her reflex attack is quite bad on enemies, but in combination with Daeran, we got ice and fire from those two, as well as a lot of utility, a lot of buffs, and a lot of good and valuable spells. So, let's go first the skills and what's most important. By far the most important is use magic device on Nenio. After that it's this 4, Arcana, World, Nature and Religion. These would be the most important after use magic device, these 2, knowledge. That's all there is with skills, just pump up this 3 and take the rest of the points wherever you like, basically. Stick with these. Now let's check Nenio inventory. The helmet you wanna use with Nenio is Gnawing Magic. Later on you will use +8 on all stats when you find. Amulet is classic, from armor class +1 all the way up to +6. Haramaki is very good on Nenio. If you don't wanna use Haramaki, you can use the robe that will raise cold damage. Of course, here would be Under Armor robe for cold damage. The only valid goggles I find for Nenio during my runs were these. As far as cloak goes, up those saves from +1 to +7, simple as that. Belt that you wanna use on Nenio, since she is a scroll 7 and casting her spells from scrolls hurts a lot. The best belt that you can get is Specialist Belt, simple as that. Magician ring as the first ring would be the first option. For the second ring, I like Flow of Water, and you get it in tutorial area. It's valid all the way till the end. For bracers, Chaos Scourge is absolutely great on Nenio. I found Twisted Temptation gloves to be the best option for her. And boots, by far, the best that you can grab on Nenio are Arcane Persistence. I was using 2 weapons on Nenio. The first would be a Quarterstaff of the War Mage to raise damage from spells, and the second one, when I was using illusion spells like Weird and so on, I would transfer to Phantasmal Guide. From quick items, I was using Demon's Eye, Wand of Good Hope. I always had 1 empty slot so I can put scrolls in it to cast, Old Grimoire, and a Pipe Fox. Now let's switch to Nenio's Mythic Path, Mythic Leveling. The first one that you wanna grab is Abundant Casting. If you're not that good in a game, and if you are afraid, okay, of dying, you should put Less Stand first. If you know what you're doing, you go with Abundant Casting first. So you just need to switch this, basically. So, let's say we stick with Abundant Casting first. The next one you want to learn is Expanded Arsenal, Magic School, Evocation. The next one you want to learn on level 3 is Ascended Element Cold, so you start dealing damage with both Illusion and Cold spells. The next one you want to take is Spell Penetration Mythic on level 4. On level 5 we go with Improved Abundant Casting for more spells. On level 6 we're gonna go with Spell Focus on Illusion. On level 7, Less Stand, I already told you can switch them. On level 8, School Mastery Evocation, because we're gonna use both Evocation, Cold, and Illusion for Nenio. On a night 1, we go with Greater Abundant Casting for even more spells, and for the last one, I took Ruptured Restraints, so she becomes immune to most of the annoying things in the game. Here we go with classic leveling. Nenio comes with spell focus illusion and into spell penetration, into greater spell penetration, that's how you're gonna open up during early acts, into greater spell focus illusion, into elemental focus cold, into greater elemental focus cold. Combined with mythic path, she transfers her illusion to evocation, and then both illusion and evocation hurts. Next one you can grab is Iron Will. After that it's improved Iron Will, cause we want huge will on Nenio so she stays stable during fights. For this one, this is a spell focus, and I believe I took Weird or I took Tsunami. One out of those two. Play with what you like more. Okay. And the final one would be Great Fortitude. Now back to her Wizard Scroll 7 here. She receives her focus, she receives scroll specialization, she receives scroll mastery. Over here I took meta magic for empower. And for the last one I use combat casting. That's all there is with Nenio basically. Now, what does she need? Because I was playing Aeon Inquisitor, I never had to use team feat on Nenio, okay? And the only team feat that Nenio needs is Shake It Off. So we need to exclude one feat over here and add Shake It Off. You can easily exclude Great Fortitude, or you can exclude Iron Will and add Shake It Off instead of it and continue playing. You basically lose nothing, it's only +2. Alright, you just need Shake It Off instead of this or instead of this, it doesn't matter. Here you can check martial stats in more detail. Now I'm gonna hover through all of the abilities and show you how Nenio looks like on Myra. Pause where you want. This is intelligence from a book. That's what Aeon gives. Scrap down. And considering we have a classic illusion called Evocation Mage, now the most important thing is a spellbook and how to play Nenio. We're gonna start with a spellbook. From the first level spells, the most important that you can get is Dismiss, of course, you're gonna use it a lot, and Array of Frost. These two. First level spells, nothing to think about here, it's all the way up to Magic Missiles, Wreck It Up, alright? Use Color Spray and use Expeditious Retreat for faster running. The good ones to also have during Act 1 is 1 Grease and maybe 1 Burning Hands. Second level, Mirror Image, a must, extremely good if you wanna tank a bit with Nenio and buy a few rounds. Pit for crowd control. Bluer, absolutely a must. You need 5-6 bluers to cast on everyone before combat starts. Invisibility, very good to cast on a character with the highest sneaking skill, and then you can loot everything on a map, come back, get stronger, and then enter the fights. It's very good to cast, for example, during Act 1 on Woljif. Web for crowd control, extremely useful during Act 1 and 2. Of course, early game, you're gonna need a bit of a Cat's Grace or a Bull Strength, you know, spells like that, basically. See Invisibility, but all of that can also be casted through Scrolls and through Potions. So, I told you what's most important from level 2. We go to level 3, the most important one would be Displacement. Extremely good on your tanks, on Nenio under Mirror Image, on Woljif, and so on. Of course, bread and butter skill Haste. nothing to say about it, as well as heroism. As you can see over here, level 3 is actually quite strong for Nenio, extremely strong, and what you need will be displacement, haste, heroisms, and you can take one spiked pit for crowd control. We transfer to level 4. Phantasmal is greater for easier difficulties. On unfair, it won't work that good, alright? Weird will, but Phantasmal won't do that good. Dimension Door is a must to traverse certain areas and get that free loot. For some crowd control, we have Obsidian Flow and we have Acid Pit. We transfer to level 5, and this is where Nenio becomes Cold, Evocation, Damage Dealer, and Illusionist. For the favorite, we take Phantasmal Web for crowd control. And here we go with Icy Prison and Cone of Cold. Both are equally important, extremely good to have. They deal damage, they deal a lot of crowd control, especially if you can freeze enemies with Icy Prison. Even if you don't, they're gonna receive damage each round. Cone of Cold has huge AoE, and it's a very good way to open up fights. One cloud kill is always good to have. Level 6. Basically, Cold Ice Strike can be casted as a swift action, so I'll explain later how it works, but you can cast both Cone of Cold and Cold Ice Strike at the same round, and that's a lot of cold damage. Of course, Greater Heroism is an absolute must. And later on, you're gonna add Bear's Endurance and Cat's Grace for more buffs. Forget about Sirocco, forget about Reis. We want to deal damage and make sure that we deal damage non-stop, especially on unfair. You can play with the spells on easier difficulties though. We go to level 7, also very cool one. Everything you see here is absolutely valid on Nenio, and you need it all. Legendary Proportions for buffs, Key Shout for sonic damage when the enemies resist every type of damage in a game, okay? Firebrand for your entire team to deal fire damage. Prismatic Spray, you can easily do a lot of different things to enemies, including cursing them and turning them into weak petlings. Invisibility Mass is absolutely great. Level 8. Polar Ray, Cemental, Greater Shout, Sunburst, and Scintillating Pattern. Out of all of this, I believe that Greater Shout is the best to have and to spam, and you need one out of each of these, and off you go. This is the strongest part when Nenio actually gets insane, and all of it is because of Icy Prison Mass and Tsunami. And on top of that, there's Weird, there is Foresight as a buff, there's a Heroic Invocation as a buff. You just don't know what's better out of this, alright? The first one that I would take, once you start getting level 9 spells, okay, max spells, it would be Tsunami, because she gets Weird for free. So you implement Weird, you implement Tsunami. After that, you're gonna learn Icy Prison Mass, because if it triggers, and when it triggers, you can annihilate enemies with it. If you open up with a Tsunami into Icy Prison Mass, it can be devastating, alright? After that, you can learn Foresight, and you can learn Heroic Invocation for pre-buffs. They're both equally good, but I would say Heroic would be the third one to learn, then Foresight for the fourth one. How do we play Nenio? Nenio can have solid amount of rounds and solid amount of fights during a single rest. One of them should always be with Weird, alright? One of them should be with Tsunami into Icy Prison Mass, so you open up with a Tsunami from sneaking, then you cast Icy Prison Mass. One of them should always be with Cone of Cold into Cold Ice Strike, that would be like classic damage dealing Nenio, alright? One of them can be with sonic damage, and it can be also with curses from Prismatic Spray. And one round can be fully dedicated to crowd control with pits and smokes and so on. Okay, all type of pits. Spiked pit, regular pit, poison pit, web, phantasmal web, and so on. So you got like 5 rounds or so, 5 fights, 5 encounters to cast everything you have with Nenio, and that's without pre-buffs. Alright, now we're gonna go to pre-buffs and I'll explain what to do, when to cast, what to cast. You wanna cast Expeditious Retreat, you wanna cast Mirror Image, you wanna cast Invisibility. You wanna get that heroism on everyone early on, you wanna get haste before entering the fight. You wanna get displacement on a character that's supposed to tank damage, like Seelah for example, or your main character if it's tanky, or even on Nenio if you cast Mirror Image on her. You go with bluer, displacement, Mirror Image, Nenio can tank a lot of hits. You can try and cheese out fights with Phantasmal a few tries, 3, 4, 5 tries on Unfair for example, one should work, goddammit. If you manage to entomb enemies into Icy Prison, there is no way to miss them, that's why this spell is freaking hilarious. Later on when you learn Greater Heroism, don't forget to cast Greater Heroism on everyone, it's just one of the best buffs in the game. Of course, same can be said about mass buffs, Cat's Grace, Bull Strength, Owl's Wisdom, and so on. Legendary Proportions, when the game was out for the first time, you were supposed to conserve those Dino Bones. You couldn't buy Dino Bones, only what you find. There were like 15 in the entire run. Now you can get above 100. Alright. Plus, you can create scrolls for Legendary Proportions, so spam it. Spam Legendary Proportions. The moment when you get them, they're gonna make the game easier. Don't be afraid to go and buff your allies with Legendary Proportions, from a spell or from a scroll. Before entering fights, Mass Invisibility into Firebrand is devastating. Also, you can open up fights with one Sunburst. If it procs, you can blind enemies. And of course, the best opener for fights would be Weird, because you can cast Weird 2 times in less than 3 seconds. Surprise round into a real round with a solid initiative. Those would be 2 Weirds. You should clean a lot of demons with 2 Weirds applied. But it's your choice how you want to open. You can open up with a lot of different spells. Do not forget to cast Foresight on your tanks. And the last in line, Tsunami into Icy Prison Mess. I explained how it works. Tsunami, when they're rolling down on the floor, when they're prone, just cast Icy Prison, entomb them and wreck them. Simple as that. Do not forget that Nenio hurts way much more when you cast scrolls. Okay, so have a lot of scrolls, buy them, craft them, have a lot of good illusion scrolls and cold evocation scrolls if you really want to hurt. That will be all for Nenio. I believe that Nenio works the best in combination with Daeran. Alright, because I already explained on my previous video how Daeran works. They're ice and fire, alright, with amazing amount of utility. So these two are just devastating for enemies and they can keep your party alive without resting for at least 10 encounters. On Unfair, if you know what you're doing and if you know how to play. On easier difficulties, I believe no resting is required at all for like 50 fights in a row because of these two. That's how broken they are together. Very good also thing about these two, they don't need team feats, they only need shake it up and everything else goes towards them because they're selfish and they can hurt a lot. Wenduag is extremely good during Act 1 and 2, a bit worse during Act 3, 4 and 5 and drops off quite a lot compared to other classes in Act 6, but all in all this is a hard carry when the game is actually the hardest, and those would be first few acts. So let's go and see a proper build for Wenduag for Unfair difficulty. Here you can check the stats for Wenduag. Reflex is extremely good on this build, as well as other saves. Damage is quite solid because we are doing 1 shot per round with Vital Strike. And the skills that you want to use on Wenduag would be Mobility and Perception, and after that you can transfer to Knowledge World and Lore Nature, but basically these two are the most important. Now we're gonna check items for Wenduag and what you should aim for. Basically, any helmet that will raise stats, damage, or attack is valuable on Wenduag during earlier acts. Later on, you can add Darkness Caress. The only valid amulet for every ranged character in the game, including Wenduag, if you decide to play her like that, is Amulet of Quick Draw. Goggles of Malocchio are the best goggles on Wenduag. Of course, every goggles that offer damage or attack for ranged, okay, it needs to say ranged in description, are also valid on Wenduag. I found that Armor Royal Messenger's chain shirt is the best option for Wenduag. Basically, keep it light or medium on her, and all is fine. Make sure that armor is mithril or adamantine, of course. For under armor, I believe Earth's Embrace is the best option. Cloak, very simple. There are cloaks for ranged, okay, and you're not wrong if you go with them 2 or 3 cloaks for ranged weapons, but I strongly believe that for harder difficulties, resistances are a must, and this gives the saves, so you go with +1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 as you make progress. Ring of Guiding Star will help out your teammates a lot, cause Wenduag tends to crit a lot, and this would be the first option for the ring. The second option would be Ring of Luck. Of course, there's a lot of great rings too, like Ring of Sharp Strike and others that are also very valid on Wenduag. Pick what you like the most, as long as it raises damage, attack, or any other valid stat in a game that's complemented to Wenduag. For Bracers of Abrupt Onslaught, I find them to be great because they raise sneak attack damage, and we're gonna deal sneak attacks a lot. Belt. Any belt at the start of the game that gives dexterity or strength is valid on Wenduag. Later on, belts of perfection are great, and I find a silence belt to be the absolute best on Wenduag for late game. As far as gloves go, gloves of heavy impact are absolutely great on Wenduag. Early game, you will go for gloves that gonna raise Wenduag's attack or Wenduag's damage. For boots, I like freedom of movement boots. If you play with some others, with like raise movement speed and so on, that's not a mistake, difficult terrain too, but I believe these are the best for Wenduag. Now, as far as weapon goes, you are aware that you can play Wenduag with a longbow, with a short bow, with a light crossbow, or with a heavy crossbow. So, basically, I played Wenduag here with a longbow, and we're gonna stick with a longbow build, but everything I say in the future, all you need to do is just change the type of weapon and you can play Wenduag how you want, as long as you stick with that type of weapon. I was using longbow of Leeching Strike as the primary weapon, and as the secondary weapon I was using Killing Pace. Tiger will raise Perception on Wenduag. Now up we go to Wenduag's Mythic Pot. The first one you wanna grab is the bigger they are. If you're not sure of how to play properly, okay, and if you play on harder difficulties for the first time, then less stand should be the first one into the bigger they are. Because I know what I'm doing, I took the bigger they are as the first one. You are not wrong to go with a less stand. The second one would be Vital Strike Mythic. Third one, less stand or the bigger they are. Already said how it works. The fourth one would be Improved Critical Mythic on a weapon you decide to play with. I play with a longbow. If you go with a short bow, then short bow, crossbow, light, or heavy. The fifth one would be Ruptured Restraints. The sixth one would be Weapon Focus on longbow. Mythic, of course. You decide to go with other weapon, you pick other weapon. Ranging Shots for the seventh. For the 8th one, it's gonna be Mythic Sneak Attacker because we deal a lot of sneak attack damage. 9th one would be Distracting Shots because it's great later on to distract enemies and trigger attacks of opportunity. And the last one can be Point Blank Shot Mythic. Here we are at a regular leveling. Wenduag starts as a fighter, as you all know, and you receive her on level 1, and she comes with a Point Blank Shot. Okay. After that, when you start leveling up, you go straight to Rowdy, 18 points, and then you put one less point into a fighter on level 20. So, there's nothing to say about the fighter, she comes like that. We start over here with Rowdy, this is level 2, 3, 4, and so on. So, She receives sneak attack damage and she receives Vital Strike for free. Bread and butter spell. All you need to do is right click on a Vital Strike so it appears over here. And she's gonna shoot Vital Strikes non-stop, 1 shot per round. If you go with a surprise round, then that would be 2 shots in less than 6 seconds. So we're gonna pass through regular feats and then I'm gonna pass through rowdy feats also. The first one you're gonna grab is Precise Shot. After that you're gonna go with Accomplished Sneak Attacker. After that you go with Improved Initiative, so you play faster. After that you go with Iron Will, with Improved Iron Will, with Lightning Reflexes, Improved Lightning Reflexes, into Sickening Critical that you're gonna trigger to proc non-stop over here. Then you're gonna go with a Snapshot, and then you're gonna go with a Great Fortitude. From Rowdy, she receives Improved Vital Strike for free and Greater Vital Strike for free. She also gonna receive Debilitating Injury and Advanced Talents later on. Sneak attacks on every second level are freaking crazy later on, and she can easily deal 1000 damage on unfair per shot when she crits. So, the first feat we're gonna take is a Weapon Focus on a longbow. After that, we can go with a Slippery Mine for some defense. After that, we're gonna grab cluster shots. After that, we're gonna go with Improved Critical. After that, we go with a Critical Focus, weapon you play with, of course, Improved Precise Shot, Weakening Wound, into Crippling Strike, into Varying Strike, and that would be it with skills. The last point is gonna go towards Deadly Aim in Fighter when you level 20. What is very important to say, because I was playing Aeon, I never learned team feats. So the team feats you're gonna need for Wenduag, and what you're gonna switch is Seize the Moment, Shake It Off, Precise Strike, and Outflank. You do not need the rest. So this 4. We need 4 team feats. What you can exchange is Snapshot, you can exchange Fortitude, you can exchange 1 Lightning Reflex, and you can exchange 1 Improved Iron Will. That would be exactly 4 for Seize the Moment, Shake It Off, Precise Strike, and Outflank. Once you decide to do it, and once you have those team feats, you need to play in a point-blank shot so you can trigger those team feats. That's everything there is with Wenduag. If you play with Aeon, you don't need to worry about it because you transfer team feats. In case you play any other class as your main, I told you what to switch. Again, Snapshot, Fortitude, Reflex, Will, 1 point each. You put those team feats and you're good to go with Wenduag. You don't lose much. A few points here. Instead of 45, it's gonna be 43, 58, 41. That's nothing. Now you can check advanced Wenduag stats. Pause when you want to. And we're gonna transfer to abilities. For abilities also, I'm gonna hover over everything, pause when you want. So let's go. I gave her dexterity from a book. We pass through immunities. All the feats. Crazy amount of feats on a rowdy. Wenduag doesn't have a spell book. And now, how to play Wenduag. There's not much to say, okay? You stick with a point blank, you right click on a Greater Vital Strike, you sneak, you trigger the first shot on an enemy, you hope for a huge crit, and then you can shoot again in less than 2 or 3 seconds. So that will be 2 shots in, call it a half a round, something like that. From this injuries, Bewildering Injury is absolutely great. With Wenduag, you should always position last. Once you exploit less stands on your melees, just go up front with Wenduag. Retreat with your melees so you proc less stand on her. She can tank also for 12 seconds, don't forget about it. That's extremely good. Those would be 2 rounds of tanking. 2.5 rounds including her health. She can buy 15 seconds or so. And that's a lot of time to burst enemies with other companions. I'll say it again. Wenduag is the best character in Act 1. Mega carry in Act 2, drops a bit in Act 3, drops a bit further in Act 4. She's still the same during Act 5. In Act 6, Threshold is just straight up broken, you need a lot of spells, and she's like a right-click character, and you won't profit much on Unfair in Threshold, but she can really carry you off early on. Greybor Guide for Unfair Difficulty from level 1 to 20. Greybor can be valid, okay, but he's so freaking boring to play. But if you enjoy those right-click characters, then Greybor is the one for you. I personally find him extremely boring in terms of lore, in terms of story, in terms of dialogues, in terms of gameplay. Everything about him is straight up dead boring, but let's make him valid for Unfair. Over here, you can check the stats for Greybor. Attack goes above 50, solid, very solid saves, solid armor class. You were supposed to burst with Greybor, deal a lot of sneak attack damage, pick your targets with studied target, okay? Go into the fight, not the first, you go with a tank, then you go with a Greybor. That's about it with him, okay? He also has Quarry, which is extremely useful for the entire team to hurt the specific target. Basically, it's a right-click boss killer, okay? Target focus. What we need from skills. From skills for Greybor, we need perception and mobility and athletics as well as stealth. That's very easy to get, you don't need anything else. Just stick with this 4 and you're good to go. Now let's pass through Greybor inventory, through his items. The helmet that's very good on Greybor is Shy Lily's helmet. For amulet, it's classic from +1 to +6, +7, armor class up. Goggles of Malocchio are the only valid option on Greybor. Basically, I'll be honest, there is no good goggles for Greybor. They don't exist in a game. This is the best you can give him and they suck also. 4. Armor, medium armor suits the best on Greybor, or some great light armor. Make sure that it's mithril or adamantine. Cape, cloak, classic from +1 to +7, all saves up. For a robe, Lore Master's robe is solid because it gives reflex, but frankly there are no good robes for Greybor. Belt is quite classic. At the start, when you find Greybor, you will need dexterity, strength, constitution. After that, just transfer to belts of perfection, +4, +6, +8. For ring, also very simple, flat ring of protection from +1 to +7. For his other ring, I gave him Revered Champion. There are a lot of good rings, okay, that you can use on Greybor. Basically everything that's gonna raise up damage, or attack, or saves is good on Greybor. I gave him this one because of the immunity on movement impairing conditions. For bracers, bracers of heavy hand are absolutely the best ones that you can equip on Greybor. For gloves, Fencer's Gift is absolutely the best that you can equip on Greybor. But basically speaking about bracers and gloves, again, everything that's gonna raise his attack and his damage is valid. For boots, I found Boots of Stampede to be the best option because he has a lot of athletics and this one will scale some damage through athletics. Weapons, you can only use Dwarven Vorax if you want him to scale, and that would be Mighty Advisor and Behemoth Chopper. Greybor's Mythic Path, Mythic Leveling. The first one you're gonna get is No Brain, Less Stand. The second one would be 2 weapon fighting Mythic. The third one would be a Leading Strike. The fourth one would be improved critical Mythic on a Dwarven Vorax. The 5th one, Thundering Blows, hit even when you miss. The 6th one would be Mythic Sneak Attacker. The 7th one would be Ruptured Restraints, so he doesn't get crowd controlled. The 8th one would be Weapon Focus, Mythic on a Dwarven Vorax. The 9th one would be Unrelenting Assault, so he becomes a complete beast when he hits. And the 10th one would be Flawless Attacks. Everything goes towards damage and crowd control, or better to say, defense against annoying enemies' spells. Leveling. Classic leveling for Greybor. We stick with the Slayer till the very end, and that's about it. Let's go through the feats and I'll explain what to take and when to take. Greybor comes with a 2-weapon fighting, with a weapon focus and Dwarven Vorax, and with accomplished sneak attacker. After that, it's your time to level him up. So, Hammer the Gap is great. Power attack after it. Improved critical on a Dwarven Vorax. Blind fight. Staggering critical. Iron Will. And improved Iron Will. He will receive sneak attack on every 3rd level. He will receive Quarry and Insta Quarry for free. He will receive a classic nuke attack on level 20. And as far as his Slayer talents go, we're gonna take Double Slice, Weakening Wound, Improved 2-weapon fighting, Slow reactions, Critical Focus, Greater 2-weapon fighting, Varying Strike, Improved Uncanny Dodge, and Improved Blind Fight. Now, because I was giving the entire team feat, that means that we're gonna need on Greybor Seize the Moment, Shake It Off, Precise Strike, and Outflank. Those would be 4 feats that we need to exchange right now. So what you can exchange? You can exchange Iron Will, you can exchange Blind Fight, or you can exchange Staggering Critical, or even better, Power Attack. If you play on unfair difficulty, you don't need it because it's even harder to hit with a Power Attack. So basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, switch 4. Seize the Moment, Shake It Off, Precise Strike, Outflank. That's about it. You really won't lose much. Stats will remain literally the same. Here you can check Greybor's stats, pause when you want. He doesn't have a spellbook. And now we're gonna pass through his abilities, pause when you want to, and I'm gonna hover over everything. This comes from Aeon. A lot of feats on Greybor. These would be racial traits. How to play Greybor. As I said, go in 2nd or 3rd into a fight after your tank. Of course, you can always go 1st when you exploit less stands on your tanks, so Greybor exploits his own less stand and then you can rest. For playing Greybor, it's very simple. You switch off this on a harder difficulties, you turn it on easier difficulties. Power attack. What you're gonna do is study a target, alright? Make quarry on a target and nuke it out with a Master Slayer. After that, you right click on enemies and you repeat the process. There's nothing to say about it. It's like playing Diablo 1 in 96 with Aiden. You know, right click. That will be it for Greybor. Sosiel Cleric Guide for Unfair Difficulty. Let's make him valid. What is Sosiel? Sosiel is a very boring cleric and a very weak cleric, but he can be viable on unfair. Alright, so let's see what to do with him. This would be the stats for Sosiel. As you can see, attack is quite good, damage is also quite good, his defense is solid, and saves are quite high. There is one problem, of course, in all of that. He's extremely weak at the start of the game once you encounter him in Act 2. Basically, in Act 2, he is a classic squishy. Mid-game, he becomes a bit better, while late-game, he's definitely on its best. What is the most important skill for Sosiel? It's Lore Religion, into Persuasion, into Perception. But basically what's most important and the only thing you actually need for him is Lore Religion. Now let's take a look at Sosiel's inventory. For a helmet, early game, you want to opt in for a positive channeling for better heals. Alright. Later on, you will need a lot of wisdom on Sosiel, and mega late game, you will want helmets of perfection, +4, +6 on all attributes. For Amulet, it's classic armor class from 1 to +7. Nothing else to say about it. Now, as far as armor goes, we need medium or light armor. Make sure that it's mitral or adamantine. If it has some passives on it, even better, from +1 to +5 as you make progress. These goggles of pure sight, I found them to be the best on Sosiel, but frankly, there are no good goggles for a cleric in this game. For under armor, Calming Warden might be the best option for Sosiel. As far as cape goes, cloak from +1 on all saves to +7 if you can also find something like this one with passives, go for it, but just make sure that you have those saves up. For the first ring, we opted in for Ring of Luck. Second ring is classic, flat protection, raise that armor class from +1 to 3, 4, 5, 7, 6, 7. As far as belt goes, this is the best belt that you can equip on Sosiel, but early game you will want a belt that gives strength or constitution, even dexterity, everything is valid. Mid-game, perfection belt, +4 on all stats. Late game, you go with Venerated Champion. For bracers, I believe that Clear Purpose is the best one that you can equip. For gloves, Star Embroidered Gloves, only because of luck bonus on all saving throws, +2. Basically, when you check for bracers and gloves, you want to raise some of the stats over here until you find this too. For boots, Perfect Maneuver is very nice on Sosiel. Early game, you can give him freedom of movement, difficult terrain boots, movement speed boots, and so on. Now, for the weapon, cause I built Sosiel with a light mace, I opted in for a Finger Freezer to combine well with a Grave Shivering, so Sosiel is one moving ice tanky pillar. Late game, okay, focused on cold. So, for the weapon, again, make sure that it's a simple weapon. Pick your weapon, what you want to play with, invest into it, and equip only that type of weapon. In this case, it's a light mace. For the shield, Immaculate Petal, his own shield that he's gonna receive in the Abyss, in Alushinira, once he finds his brother, is probably the best one. There are good shields on +5, okay, because this one is +4, but there are no good shields with such amazing stats, okay, for passives like Immaculate Petal is. Sosiel's Mythic Path. For the first one, we take less stand. For the second one, we go with Mythic Toughness. For the third one, Abundant Casting, so we can cast more. For the fourth one, Weapon Focus, Mythic on a weapon you wanna play with. In this case, it's Light Mace. For the fifth one, it's improved Abundant Casting. For the sixth one, it's improved Critical Mythic on a weapon you wanna play with. In this case, it's Light Mace. Then we're gonna go in for the seventh one, Integrator Abundant Casting for maximum amount of spells in the game. Defensive Combat Training Mythic for the eighth one, Rapture Restraints, so he resists enemies' crowd control spells, and at the end, Destructive Shockwave, so he hits even when he misses. Classic leveling now, 19 points into Cleric, 1 point into Fighter because of the free feat. Now, let's check those feats. Alright, Sosiel comes with extra channel on Cleric, Toughness, and Medium Armor Focus. From level 7 and onwards, you start to level up Sosiel. So the next one is shield focus into history of terrors, into weapon focus on a weapon you wanna play with, into improved critical on the weapon you wanna play with, into critical focus, into defensive combat training, and into lightning reflexes from the bottom. With a fighter I took improved initiative. You don't need it, to be honest, it's better to take team feats. Now, I could have done all of this, alright, because I was playing as an Aeon Inquisitor and I was sharing team feats. So Sosiel needs seize the moment, shake it off, precise strikes, outflank, coordinated maneuvers, coordinated defense, back to back. All of that is valuable on. So you're gonna need like 5 to 7 team feats. And we need to switch a lot of things right now to make Sosiel valid for every mythic path, okay, for every main character that you're gonna play with. So, what you can exclude? History of Terrors, defensive combat training, lightning reflexes, improved initiative, that would be 4, and shield focus, that would be 5. Then now we need to put in some team feats to make him better. Primary, team feat, seize the moment, and shake it off. The next one you can go with precise strike and outflank, that will be 4. And now we need to opt in for the last team feat, that would probably be coordinated defense. And that will be 5. Told you what to switch. You can check advanced stats over here. And off we go to Spellbook. Spellbook, from cantrips, guidance, divine zap, and resistance are good. From level 1, you're gonna learn True Strike, you're gonna learn Bless, you're gonna learn Remove Fear, Divine Favor, Stunning Barrier, Unbreakable Heart, and a few more usages of those into Command. Now, what's the most important one? It's definitely True Strike, combined with Bless. Once you get more free slots, you will learn Remove Fear and Divine Favor. And after that, you're gonna go with Stunning Barrier. So basically, these 5 are the most important on level 1. Level 2, the main slot, Protection from Evil Communal, cast it before you enter the fight. The most important, by far, is a Lesser Restoration, of course. Now, we're gonna go with Protection from Alignment, Chaos, and Evil, mostly during this game. Bone Shaker for some ranged damage, because he is squishy at the start and this is your damage dealing option. And of course, Effortless Armor. What is the most important one? For the team, it's Protection from Alignment, you learn it first, and you're gonna get the one from his domain slot also. Lesser Restoration, but you can always cast it with Scrolls and Potions. Bone Shaker after that, and during mid-game when he gets more of those slots, we're gonna go with Effortless Armor. This classics Bull Strength, Bear's Endurance again, you can do it with Scrolls early on and with Potions. Level 3 spells. For the domain slot, of course, it's Prayer, and it's by far the best thing that you can equip. Cast it before you enter the fight. Animate Dead, classic distraction, okay, you ramp up those skeletons, they tank for you, you wipe out enemies. Delay Poison Communal, Resist Energy Communal, and Magical Vestment for armor and for shield. What is the most important one? Over here in 3, it's definitely Prayer. After that, it's Animate Dead. You can also place Monarch on Zora. You will need this, for example, against Briborax early on. And of course, you ramp this up on the one that's gonna tank. Armor and shield. Raise armor class. Level 4 Spellbook, the main slot, classic Protection from Energy Communal, it's valid all the way till the end game. Some distraction with Summon Monster, Death Ward, so you don't receive those negative levels. Holy Smite for some AoE damage, Freedom of Movement, so no one stops you. And of course Crusader's Edge to deal more damage. Restoration, no brain here, but better to cast it with Scrolls early on. And of course, Divine Power. Greater Magic Weapon is good against bosses. Which one is the most important? During Act 2 is Death Ward. And we can easily say also Freedom of Movement, because that's when you receive Sosiel during Act 2. Level 5 Spellbook. For the domain slot, Break Enchantment. Of course, we're gonna go with True Seeing, we're gonna go with Righteous Might, we're gonna go with Angelic Aspect, and this is the moment, basically, when you receive those level 5 spells, when Sosiel becomes valid for melee. Alright, till then, he should remain behind. This is the moment when you switch Positive Channeling Helmet, Phylactery of Positive Channeling, you transfer to some tankier items, tankier helmets, tankier armor, and you start entering those fights. Life Bubble is great, a bit of healing from Breath of Life, it also works at Resurrection. Pillar of Life, of course, and the upgraded version of Bone Shaker would be Bone Shatter. Of course, Spell Resist is also extremely good. So basically, this level 5 is the strongest level for Sosiel. Every spell here is important, but the most important would definitely be Angelic Aspect, just Might. Level 6 is when Sosiel gets even stronger and party benefits a lot because of level 6. Why? Because of Mass Bear's Endurance, Bull's Strength, Eagle's Splendor, Cat's Grace, Owl's Wisdom, AoE buffs for your entire team, and of course, True Seeing, Communal, everything is equally important, as well as Eagle Soul and Heal. Once you learn all of these, then you can go for Joyful Rapture and Inspiring Recovery, but these over here are the most important, and the most important one would be True Seeing, Communal, if no one else can cast it, and after that it would be Eagle Soul. Have in mind that there are a lot of good spells, but Sosiel is that type of cleric that doesn't profit out of Blade Barriers here, out of Cold Eye Strike, out of Dispel Magic Greater. He's just bad at casting it, okay? I took the spells he's good with. This is not a type of cleric that should use these spells. Level 7 is whatever. On Sosiel, learn what you like, use what you like, everything sucks. On Sosiel, here, the most important one is by far Restoration Greater. After that, do whatever the hell you like here. It really doesn't matter and you won't change much. Level 8 is when Sosiel gets a bit better spells, okay, because of the Holy Aura, because of the Greater Angelic Aspect, when he finally is operative in melee to the max. And of course, all of that is followed by Frightful Aspect, so this is the combo, these 3 spells. The rest doesn't matter that much, but these 3 is what you want to go for. The final level, Mass Heal, no brain, and you can speed him up with Winds of Vengeance. Everything else doesn't matter that much. Just make sure that you have these, you have Winds of Vengeance, and of course, there is Overwhelming Presence when it triggers. If it triggers, and it hardly triggers on unfair, on easier difficulties, it's definitely valid. Now let's check Sosiel's abilities. I'll hover over everything. You can pause when you want to. Off we go. This comes from Aeon. He doesn't have that many feats. Human skilled, that's about it, racial trait. How do we play Sosiel early game? You remain behind, you're gonna cast Remove Fear, you're gonna cast Bless, you're gonna cast Divine Fervor, enter 3rd or 4th into battle, alright? You can cast True Strike before entering, so you can actually hit someone. You can buff your allies, you can go with Effortless Armor, of course you're gonna go with Protection from Evil, Protection from Chaos. You're gonna cast some of these bones, summon them, okay, so they receive damage instead of your teammates, buff their armor. Go with Archon Zora, cast Prayer before entering fights, that would be from 1 to 3, early game. Mid game, what you can do with Sosiel, you still don't enter the fight on 4, but there are more spells to cast, okay, and to remove negatives with Restoration. On 5, you start entering fights in melee, you switch that Bloody Helmet, you get some tankier equipment, you go with Angelic Aspect and Righteous Might before entering the fight, and you push Sosiel in first. When he expands his last stand before resting, you could consider to leave him behind, use Bone Shatter and use Bone Shaker to deal damage to enemies before resting. On 6, cast all of this bloody buffs, alright, everything there is. Eagle Soul, you cast it before entering the fight. On 7, it's forever, as I said. On 8, classic what you did on 6, but this time you're gonna cast Angelic Aspect Greater and enter the fight, as well as Shield of Law or Holy Aura. Depends who you fight against. And on 9, there's like Mass Heal and Overwhelming Presence when it triggers, and that's about it. Any tricks for Sosiel? I would say no. You just need to learn when to go in with him and when to stay behind and heal, debuff, remove negatives and so on, but that's something you learn as you play. I cannot teach you that. So, Sosiel, again, I love clerics in Pathfinder. Sosiel is the worst cleric I've seen in my life. He can be valid on unfair, but he's so freaking annoying. His story is bad, his lore is bad, his spells are bad, his domains are bad. I forgot to talk about domains because they suck. Okay, they are far better domains. There are like 50 domains in a game, and there's like, from what they give and good and luck, there's like 20 better domains. Okay, easily. It's just bad. But if you want to play with Cleric, if you want to test the Cleric, I gave you the build. Do I recommend him for unfair? No, because you're gonna suffer. Is it valid? Yes, but you're still gonna suffer. He just straight bad. Now, I stuck with his own leveling, okay, kept him as that Cleric and so on. You can opt in to switch domains, okay? But then you lose other things from Cleric, alright? You cannot max it out in Clerics. They are high-level Divine Casters, and you need to reach that 9, alright? For them to be valid, and it's also a very bad class for multi-classing. So it needs to be perfect from start to finish. Sosiel is broken at the start, so he cannot be perfect at the finish line. Woljif build for unfair difficulty. Eldritch Scoundrel with the biggest amount of spells that can be played in tons of different ways. I'm gonna cover one build for Woljif here. You're not wrong if you decide to go with something else, cause variety of what you can do with Woljif is absolutely huge. So let's go. Here you can check the stats for Woljif. His attack is solid, armor class is solid, reflex, fortitude, will, or also very solid. Numbers are not that great for unfair, but he makes it all up with extremely good spells on the way. Not only that he makes it up with spells, he also makes it up with skills. Skill variety, okay, because Elder Scoundrel, Rogue, yeah. So what's most important? Trickery, Perception, Stealth, Mobility, Use Magic Device, and Knowledge Arcana for Woljif. The most important being absolutely Stealth and Trickery. Now let's go to the inventory. Let's see what items Woljif can use. For Helmet early on, everything that gives intelligence, Woljif will profit out of it. Of course, later on, Headband of Subjugator is a must. For Amulet, Amulet of Deep Roots, I find him the best on Woljif. Before that, just ramp up armor class from +1 to 3, 4, 5 and onwards. For Goggles, Goggles of Piercing Gaze are very nice on Woljif. Woljif Guide for unfair difficulty. Woljif is a Eldritch Scoundrel, so that means we have a rogue with sneak attack damage with amazing, freaking amazing amount of spells. So that also means that you can play Woljif in a lot of different ways. I'm gonna cover one build for Woljif here. You're not wrong if you decide to play with something else. So let's go. Here you can check stats for Woljif. As you can see, attack is absolutely great. Armor class is very solid, Fortitude, Reflex and Will is also solid. Okay, none of these numbers are huge for unfair difficulty, especially for late game, but his spells recover most of the things that you'll need along the way, and enemies will tend to miss Woljif a lot, so he is also extremely good at tanking, especially during Act 1 and 2. For skills, every rogue has huge skills variety. Eldritch Scoundrel is not different, of course. We need stealth, perception, mobility, trickery, use magic device, and knowledge arcana. The most important one would be stealth and trickery, and then ramp up everything else. Woljif items and what you can use on him. Early on, for a helmet, you can use everything that basically gives intelligence plus 2 for 6. Later on, it should be headband of subjugator. For Amulet of Deep Root is absolutely great in late game. Before that, armor class plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is what you'll need. For armor, Haramakis are very good on Woljif. Soulless Command is a late game Haramaki. Before that, use weaker Haramakis. You can also use light armor, adamantine or mitral with solid passive abilities if you don't want to play with Haramaki, but be careful about arcane spell failure. For goggles, goggles of piercing gaze are absolutely the best ones on Woljif. For cloak, classic from plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as you progress. For under armor, or better to say for a robe, we go with anything that's gonna boost saving throws. For the first ring, I decided to go with a Ring of Luck. For the second ring, it's a Ring of Protection. Now, make sure of one thing. There are a lot of good rings for Woljif, okay? You're not wrong if you go with plenty of them over here. Just, for example, you can go with Ring of Summoning easily also. The entire party will profit out of it. He will profit out of it. Just decide what you want, alright? Do you want armor? Do you want damage? Do you want attack? I opted in for armor class. For bracers, bracers of Abrupt Onslaught, very simple, they boost sneak attack damage, Woljif deals sneak attack. For belt, perfection, alright, early on it's dexterity, dexterity and constitution, after that it's just physical perfection, plus 2, 4, plus 6, that's about it. For gloves, again, if you can find gloves that will enhance sneak attack as well as bracers, you are very good to go. For boots, boots that give freedom of movement are absolutely great on Woljif, especially if you have this one for movement speed also. Now weapons, okay, you can play Woljif with short swords, with daggers, with kukris, decide what you wanna play with. I built this Woljif with short swords. On my previous run I was playing with daggers, alright, but I placed both daggers and short swords to see what is gonna end up in late game, okay. One of the most powerful items mid-game is a short sword that completely bypasses damage reduction, by the way. I think you get it on Act 3 or something, and it's valid all the way till Act 6. Now, these are late-game short swords, Unexpected Resolution, and Void's Kiss. Alright, those two, if you opt in for short sword. If you opt in for daggers, there's a lot of good daggers, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot, at least 20 good daggers along the game, alright? From plus 1 to plus 5. I have Scorpion Sting here and a little Conductor. Pick what weapon you wanna play with. This is the build for a short sword. Woljif's Mythic Path. The first one is a no-brain. Less stand, of course. The second one would be 2-weapon fighting Mythic. The third one would be Abundant Casting. The fourth one would be Improved Critical with a short sword. If you play with kukris, it's kukri. If you play with daggers, it's daggers. And so if you play with sickles, it's sickles. Okay, pick what you like. The fifth one is Thundering Blows, because he'll hit even when he misses. The sixth one is Mythic Sneak Attacker. The seventh one is Ruptured Restraints. The eighth one is Weapon Focus Mythic on a short sword or a dagger or a kukri. The ninth one is Improved Abundant Casting, and the last one would be Flawless Attacks. Classic leveling now. We stick all the way till the end with Eldritch Scoundrel. Okay, there are plentiful ways to play Woljif, as I said. If you opt in for a mage, everything changes. Alright, mage, Eldritch Scoundrel, everything changes, then you focus spells. And the entire skills over here, all of these feats are different. This is a melee buffer Woljif. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna grab is a 2-weapon fighting. The next thing would be double slice. After that it's of course accomplished sneak attacker. After that it's armor proficiency light. After that it's improved 2-weapon fighting. After that it's improved critical with a short sword. After that it's hammer the gap. After that it's a blind fight. After blind fight it's a greater 2-weapon fighting. And at the end we have improved blind fight. From weapons I picked daggers, short swords and kukris. Woljif receives evasion, Woljif receives debilitating injury, and he also receives advanced talents on level 10, I think, yeah, level 10. From rogue talents, we're gonna pick weakening wound, weapon focus on a short sword, critical focus, slippery mind for some defense, and greater blind fight. Now, because I was playing Aeon, I didn't need team feats for Woljif, but if you play with some other character as a main, you won't have team feats, which means now we need to give Woljif some team feats. And what's important on Woljif is seize the moment, shake it off, precise strike, and outflank. We need to change 4 feats and place those 4 team feats for Woljif to be good. The first one we can change is armor proficiency light armor for shake it off. Now you can decide if you want to switch hammer the gap or blind fight. If you switch blind fight, that's exactly 3 more left for those 3. Okay, blind fight, improved blind into greater blind fight. And we need shake it off, precise strikes, outflank, and seize the moment. If not, then we're gonna switch hammer the gap for something out of those 4. So basically what you can switch is this one, this, and this. Pick what you like to switch and when you like to switch and just add these 4 team feats and you're good to go. You can check advanced stats over here for Woljif. Now I'll pass through abilities, pause when you want, and let's go. Now we transfer to Woljif's spellbook. First, the cantrips. They're not that important to be honest, so we can easily skip them. You probably use Ray of Frost, but I doubt, to be honest, you're gonna use melee attacks. Now, from level 1, as you can see here, there's a ton of magic missiles, a bit of grease, mage armor, and sleep. That all changes along the way, okay? This is only useful during Act 1 and Act 2, especially grease. Especially that one. Place it on doors and see enemies down on the floor. Second level in Woljif's spellbook is when Woljif becomes the best tank in the game during Act 1 and 2, and there is no better. Why? Because of his mirror image and blur combination, okay? As well as with displacement from Nenio, he literally can't get hit. Okay, and on top of that, he has range damage with Bone Shaker, as well as complete crowd control on the entire screen, basically, with web. So, Woljif is at its best once you receive Spellbook level 2. Level 3, everything that you see here, Blink, Displacement, Haste, Heroism, Protection from Arrows Communal, See Invisibility Communal, all of those will carry you through Act 2. Each of these spells is equally important. Now we go to the Woljif's mid-late game. Okay, first we're gonna need Animate Death, Bone Shatter, and Greater Invisibility, alright? If you don't have anyone with a Stone Skin in your team, then you need to learn Stone Skin on Woljif, alright? But the most important one is to distract enemies with Animate Death. You can spam the living shit out of it and control the field with like, they can go from 4 to 6 skeletons, 5-6 spells. That will be from 20 to 30 skeletons on a map. It's quite good. Level 5 is when Woljif stops playing like a bitch and becomes a man. And that's because of the angelic aspect, because of beast shape, because of stone skin communal, and because of vampiric shadow shield. Once you apply all of those buffs on Woljif, he becomes completely insane around level, I think that's level 10 or so. It doesn't matter, to be honest, but once you see level 5 spellbook, that's when Woljif becomes really useful. On level 6, he also becomes very useful if you decide to play with Woljif instead of Nenio, but that's his end. He doesn't have 7, 8 and 9 because now he's a melee with tons of AoE buffs for the entire team, including all of Mess attribute scaling buffs as well as Heroism Greater that create undead is there just for the distraction. How do we play Woljif? Mega late game, Woljif with his Master Strike has the ability to one-shot enemies when he deals sneak attack damage. Literally one-shot. 2000 HP on an enemy. Unfair. He can one-shot. Simple as that. Now, as far as early game goes, I said what you do. You cast magic missiles, you go 3rd or 4th into a fight for a sneak attack damage, and you cast grease to trip enemies. Also, during early game, once you receive mirror image and blur, you're gonna apply both and you're gonna tank everything with Woljif. Not to mention when you also apply displacement and heroism on him, as well as haste for the entire party. That's where basically Woljif is the most useful in the game, during first 2 acts. You also gonna need protection from arrows communal, of course, during act 2. During act 4, he becomes a melee distraction with a lot of summons. During this part of the game, he becomes self-buffer, and during his late game, he will become AoE buffer. Of course, there's a lot of different ways to play Woljif, okay? You can play Woljif as a damage dealer. Alright, you can play Woljif as a classic melee buffer, like I presented it here. You can play Woljif as ranged also. Eldritch Scoundrel can be played in a lot of different ways, alright? But I believe that this is the best and most fun way, because it offers spells, a lot of good spells, a lot of AoE buffs, a lot of self buffs, and of course it offers that in-your-face crazy crits with sneak attack. Ember, unfair build. If it works on unfair, it will work on all other difficulties as well. So what is Ember? Ember can be played in a lot of different ways, okay? She belongs to a new class, Witch, and this is a subclass called Stigmatized Witch. How can you play Ember? You can play her with electricity damage, focused Ember, necro Ember, fire Ember. Okay, so 3 different ways. You can also focus a lot on hexes, witch hexes. But I'm gonna cover a fire Ember here. If you like to play different, alright, you just switch where it says fire for some other type of elemental damage, and you're gonna switch spells that deal that type of elemental damage. It's very simple, to be honest. The most important thing is that we get those feats right for Ember to work properly. Here, you can check stats for Ember, very low stats, including armor, saves, attack, damage, but she doesn't need all of that, she's a freaking caster. As far as skills go, the most important one is by far use Magic Device and Persuasion. After that you can go with Knowledge Arcana and Lore Religion. Alright, stick with those 4 and you're good to go. So let's check Ember's inventory. Everything that I said for Nenio or for Daeran in my builds can be applied on Ember. Exactly the same. Okay, what switch? We need to switch items, okay? If you play, for example, a fire-based Nenio, then you'll want Robe of Fire. If you plan to play with acid, okay, and you go with acid, poison, feats, then you want Earth Unleashed as a ring, alright? If you play as fire, you're gonna want a Red Salamander for a ring. And then you want a ring that complements the DC of spells, spell penetration, anything that will boost the school you are proficient in. So, I'm gonna cover Fire Ember, because I got items for that, alright, and it's already prepared. But when you and if you like to switch, all that changes are basically spells and gear with different descriptions. Necromancy gear, necromancy feats. Fire gear, fire feats. Acid gear, acid poison feats. Okay. They remain the same, all you switch is the color. That's it. For the helmet, headband of mental perfection, +4, +6, +8, it doesn't matter, stick with it. The most important stat on Ember is charisma. Early on in the game, you want +2, +4 helmet with charisma. For amulet, any amulet with armor class from +1 to +6, and of course, if you can find amulets for a specific school you're proficient in, necromancy, poison, or fire, depends how, or even lightning, depends how you wanna play Ember, you're gonna equip that amulet. If you plan to use the spell magic, goggles of pure sight are very good because you can use the spell magic with Ember. I really believe there are no better goggles for Ember than this one of pure sight. For armor, all haramakis are good, robes of fire, or if you go with cold, of lightning, of poison, and so on. Okay, the same applies for under armor. Alright, anything is gonna give something towards spells, DC, spell penetration, you equip that one. For cape, it's pretty much classic, okay, any cape that boosts spell penetration, DC, you should equip, and if not, then you go with classic from +1 to +5 on all saving throws. For belt, basically there are no good belts for a caster in the game, so the best option is to go with classic physical perfection belts, +4, +6. If you plan to play Ember with fire, then Malender's Insult is the way to go. I already explained how rings work, it really depends on a build. Alright, you search for rings that will boost the feats that you are proficient in. For gloves, star embroidered gloves are very cool, okay, they offer the most. For bracers, classic bracers with plus armor. If you don't use Haramaki, this is the way to go. For boots, the only valid option that I've seen for Ember would be Magical Whirl boots. For the staff, Plague of Madness, okay, because of the Empower and Maximize. I think it's Maximize. Because of Empower and Maximize, there is no better staff. Maybe some of the staffs that I was using with Daeran, okay, like Ashmaker if you go with Fire Ember. But basically this is the best option throughout the biggest part of the game. As far as quick slots go, you need one Quicken Meta Magic Rod, and you will need one Greater Empower Meta Magic Rod. Now let's go to Nenio's Mythic Path. Alright, the first one that you're gonna grab is Abundant Casting if you know what you're doing. If not, then it's gonna be Less Stand. The second one is School Mastery on the spells you want to play with. If you wanna play with, I don't know, Acid, Clashing Rocks and so on, it's gonna be Conjuration. If you wanna play with Bursting spells, Fire, Lightning, Electricity, then it's gonna be Evocation. Alright. For the third one, Improved Abundant. For the fourth one, of course, it's Spell Penetration Mythic. Now, Ascended Element. As I said, you play with Acid, it's gonna be Acid, Poison. You play with Electricity, it's gonna be Ascended Element, Electricity. You play with Fire, it's gonna be Fire. Spell Focus, Mythic, Evocation, if you plan to play with Evocation spells. If not, then it's Conjuration. If not, then it's Necromancy. It depends on the style you wanna play your Ember. I already said Less Stand, Abundant Casting. It all depends on the player, which one you like, but you will need Less Stand no matter when. For number 8, Expanded Arsenal, Magic School, Conjuration. Okay, now we learn how to use Conjuration and Necromancy at the same time. Alright, so she's gonna be proficient in everything. In Evocation, in Conjuration, in Necromancy. It's your choice in what order you wanna learn these. At the end, we have Greater Abundant Casting for more spells. Feats. I kept her as a Stigmatized Witch till the very end, so let's see what to do first with classic feats. She comes with a point blank shot and with a precise shot. After that you start leveling her up. So the first one we take is Spell Pen. The next one is Spell Focus on a skull you wanna use. If you wanted players Necro, you pick Necromancy. Okay, I picked her as Evocation because I like Evocation spells. The next one is Greater Spell Focus, Evocation, or Greater Spell Focus, Necromancy. The next one is Greater Spell Penetration, that's a no-brainer. Now Elemental Focus, if you plan to go Evocation Fire, then it's this one. If you plan to go with Evocation Lightning, okay, Electricity, then it's Electricity here, and so on. Then we take Greater Elemental Focus, we can take Arcane Focus for the next one, and after that it's Iron Will. The only thing from Team Feats that she needs is Shake It Off, okay, and we can switch Iron Will for Shake It Off, or we can switch Arcane Focus for Shake It Off. Now let's see these curses, what we take for Ember. The first one is Slumber, the next one is Vulnerability, the next one is Protective Lock, the next one is Evil Eye, then it's Aura of Purity, then it's Restless Slumber, then it's a Ward, then it's Fortune, then it's Regenerated Sinew, then it's a Life Giver, and at the end it's a Death Curse. That's everything for Ember. Very simple, very straightforward. The most complicated thing is to pick the right spells. So I will show you her advanced stats over here, and off we go to Spellbook. Spellbook, from Cantrips, Divine Zap, Dismissal is the most important here. Of course, Guidance too, at the early game. From level 1, the best option would be Sleep and Burning Hands. From level 2, Bone Shaker, Burning Arc, See Invisibility, Glitter Dust, and of course Web. All of that is a must. From level 3, it's Fireball, it's Spiked Pet, it's Delay Poison Communal, and it's Heroism as the most important one. If you play on Unfair, Deep Slumber won't work that well, but on easier difficulties, this would be the most important skill. Level 4 spells, we will want Stone Skin, we will want Volcanic Storm if it's fire, or if you go Evocation Cold into feats, then it's Ice Storm, okay? And other ice spells that you can also learn along the way, alright? Controlled Fireball is, of course, if you go with fire. Confusion is very nice for easier difficulties, not for unfair though. And Acid Pit, of course. Death Ward, if you don't have anyone else to cast Death Ward during Act 2, you need to do it with Ember. From level 5, basically Cave Fangs is the most broken, and that goes now if you decide to play with this type of ring, alright? Mind Fog is also very good, but that's enchantment. Fire Snake, again, if you play as a Fire Ember, Evocation into Elemental Focus Fire, this is the best one to take. Break Enchantment is a good utility for level 5. Level 6, Dispel Magic Greater, absolutely a must, okay? For harder difficulties, for easier difficulties, you go with Hellfire Ray and with Heroism Greater. Make sure when you use Hellfire Ray to have high dexterity on Ember, if you're gonna play with rays, of course, and to go with a point blank, so you can actually hit. For level 7, if no one can cast through Seeing Communal, then you do it with Ember. But all of these utility spells, Legendary Proportions, through Seeing, they can be covered by Nenio or Daeran, alright? So if you plan to have a lot of casters in your team, including Ember, then all you want to opt in for Ember is damage dealing Necro or Evocation spells, and you're gonna learn those, alright? Like Umbral Strike, like Hellfire Ray, like Firestorm, and so on. For level 8, Rift of Ruin is absolutely the best one that you can take. Soul River is great for Necromancy build on Ember, and Mind Blank, of course, but you're gonna receive Mind Blank here, Communal, which is way much better than that one. And if you decide and you opt in for Conjuration, Clashing Rocks is extremely good, alright? Storm of Burning Righteousness is absolutely crazy good, alright? And that's why I took Ember as a Fire Witch, Fire Mage, color however you like, it doesn't matter. This is the one that I'm going for, okay? Only because of that spell. I believe that's why she's best as an evocation fire damage dealer with all fire items equipped, because this thing is absolutely broken. Broken. Advanced version of Firestorm. Like, it ain't real, okay? Especially when you equip Daeran's, this one, Melander's Insult. Like, I got no words for it, okay? That's why my entire build for Ember is focused like this. You're not wrong if you wanna go with Necromancy, with Acid, with Poison, with Conjuration for Clashing Rocks. It depends what you like, it depends on the difficulty you play with. I believe for Unfair, this spell is absolutely great. Storm of Burning Righteousness. The rest of the spells, Classic Foresight, Raise Armor Class, Fiery Body, Polar Midnight, and of course Mind Blank Communal, entire buff for your entire team. I will cover all of the abilities now. Pause where you need to and let's go. This comes from Inquisitor Immunities. Basically all of her hexes are here now. Feats, not so many. And this comes from a racial Elven. How to play Ember. Ember is very weak during Act 1, a bit stronger during Act 2, starts scaling up during Act 3, she becomes completely insane from Act 4 and onwards. She might be the strongest in terms of AoE damage, and all of that goes only towards this thing that's absolutely broken. Okay, now, how do we play her? We want to cast hexes, tons of hexes on enemies, okay, from the start, or you wanna cast Protective Luck on your allies early on and so on. From level 1 you can scream in enemies' ears, you can burn them. If you decide to go for Necromancy, there are good damage dealing spells for Necromancy, okay, like Bone Shaker, Classic Fire, Burning Arc, Scorching Ray, Web to disable enemies, and See Invisibility, so you can hit flat-footed armor class on enemies. From level 3, buff all your allies with Heroism, alright, make those traps with Spiked Pit, and when you encounter the Scaries, a must would be Delay Poison Communal for your entire team. Fireball, you can open up fights with that. From level 4, because there's gonna be a lot of enemies during Act 1, during Act 2 with negative level, that ward will stop that. You can open up also with Controlled Fireball, you're gonna give Stone Skin to your tanks so they remain alive longer. If you opted in for Fire, it's Volcanic Storm, opted in for Ice, Ice Storm, and so on. Of course, you're also gonna receive Acid Pits for more control. From level 5, best control would be Cave Fangs. Your damage dealing spell would be Fire Snake. If you decide to play with Rays, Hellfire Ray, absolutely great. Greater Heroism, of course, on all party members, it's a must before entering combat. And Dispel Magic Greater, there is no playing without it on Unfair. If you went with Necro, it should be Umbral Strike. If you went with Fire instead of a Hellfire Ray this time, I believe that Firestorm is the best option, okay? Legendary Proportions, of course, no brain, cast on all team members, do not worry about Dino Bones, there are plenty in the game now. And of course, through Seeing Communal if no one else is able to cast it. Level 8 is basically the weakest level, and you're gonna use Rift of Ruin and Soul River a lot from this part. And level 9 now, Mind Blank Communal, cast on the entire party before entering combat. Cast that armor class up with Foresight. Open up with Storm of Burning Righteousness. This is devastating, okay? When you trigger, it's devastating. All you need to do is turn on Greater in Power, cast once, surprise round, pause, Cast it again with Empower during surprise round. Entire screen is covered. That's a lot of damage, and I mean it. After you cast it once more, you switch to Quicken, and in less than 3 seconds, you're gonna nuke enemies to the last quarter of their health. So in 3 seconds only. Then you can use whatever the hell you like from spells. Alright, but that's how you should open. Now some final notes. Ember, she is tricky, okay, because there are a lot of different builds for Ember. Necro Ember, Fire Ember, Ice Ember, Poison Ember, Buffer Ember, Curses, Hexes Ember. You can play her in like 7 or 8 different ways. That's a lot. I covered one way. You're not wrong if you wanna go with cursing enemies, okay, disabling them, but then you need good team to complement that. I gave you here an option with Ember that's gonna burst enemies, that's gonna nuke enemies with small amount of buffs, because I believe there are better buffers, to be honest, from your companions than Ember. And that's why I opted in for flat damage, AoE, single target, everything is covered. Trever, unfair build, Sosiel's brother, full melee, two-handed fighter, armored Hulk, Hell Knight, and a paladin, or better to say, he started as a paladin through his lord, and he became a Hell Knight, after that a freaking barbarian, when he ended up in the Abyss, a classic two-handed fighter. Remember one thing, if it works on unfair, it will work on all other difficulties as well. So, here you can check the stats of Trever. They are absolutely insane, alright, including crit range, hilarious damage, very good attack, and insane saves. Armor class is also solid, but it could be better, to be honest, but whatever. So what do we need from skills for Trever? We need athletics, we need mobility, and the rest is your choice. Basically, you can go into whatever the hell you like. I went into Knowledge World and Lore Religion. Just make sure you have these two and you're good to go. Trever's inventory, his items. Let's see, what do we use? For a helmet, I believe the best option is Shy Lily's helmet because of plus 40 strength and plus 2 to armor class. For amulet, natural armor, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Simple as that. If you can find similar one with passives, use that one, but basically stick with classic natural armor. As far as goggles go, I find only this one valid on Trever, only because it gives attack and damage rolls against demons. There are no better goggles for Trever, and that's it. For armor, any armor that's heavy or medium, and that's gonna be adamantine or mithril, is valid. This one might be the best option, but it's mega late game. For a cape, it's classic all saves up, plus 1 to 7. If you can equip some with saves and some passive abilities, do so. For under armor, heavy fortification. As far as belt goes, early on when you find Trever, it should be strength and constitution. Later on you can transfer to belt of perfection, plus 4, 6 and 8. As far as ring goes, the first one will be ring of protection, of course, from plus 1 to plus 6. And for the second ring, I opted in for ring of imminent demise to raise that damage even more. Gloves of entropy are absolutely great on Trever. For bracers, any bracers that will raise his attack or his damage, you're good to go. For boots, again, boots that work against demons, plus 1 to armor class. For the weapon, it's quite simple. He comes with a falchion, okay, and you should stick with those type of weapons. The best option is Defender's Nemesis. It's mega late game, but just stick with those weapons from plus 3, 4, 5 and onwards. Trever's Mythic Path. The first one is a no-brain less stand. We're gonna go into improve critical mythic with Falcon. Then it's a Thundering Blows, hit even when you miss. Weapon focus on a Falcon, of course. Mythic Unrelenting Assault to raise that damage even further. Weapon specialization, Mythic again on a Falcon. Rupture Restraints, so he doesn't get affected by enemies' crowd control spells. Mythic Toughness for 8. For 9 it's Limitless Rage, and for 10 it would be Flawless Attacks. Now let's go with classic leveling. Trever is a complete mess, because that's how game made him because of lore. He was a paladin first, then a hell knight, and he ended up as a barbarian armored Hulk in the abyss, and at the end a classic two-handed fighter. So, even though he's a mess, he's still solid enough, which you can tell by all of these numbers, okay? They're extremely high. And let's check for the start his feats, classic feats, then we're gonna transfer to other feats as well. Trever gets his power attack at the start and a weapon focus. After that, he gets heavy armor focus, into cleave, into cleaving finish. They oriented a lot on cleave, great cleave, improved cleaving finish, okay? They expect you to play with cleave and cleave only, okay? From this moment you start leveling up Trever around here, 13, 15. I would never take Greater Bull Rush, so they start from here. This is what I took. So this is the from level 15 and beyond where you can level up Trever. So I took Improved Critical Falcon, Greater Weapon Focus on his weapon, and Iron Well. From down here, there's Hammer the Gap, there's Bull's Rush, there's a Weapon Specialization into Falcon, a Critical Focus, Dodge, and a Blind Fight. From Armored Hulk, there's a Powerful Stance, there is Scent, and there is Armor Proficiency into Heavy Armor. From the Hell Knight, there's Compulsion and Fearsomeness. From Paladin, there's nothing, just a lay on hands that you won't even need. So, now we got this team feats that Trever needs, and it would be Seize the Moment, Shake It Off, Precise Strikes, and Outflank. So we need to switch 4. You can switch Iron Will, you can switch Blind Fight, you can switch Dodge, and you can switch Critical Focus. 4, I repeat again, Seize the Moment, Shake It Off, Precise Strike, Outflank. If you play as Aeon, as an Inquisitor, or as what else can transfer team feats, I think it's Cavalier, then you can stick with this build. For all other classes as a main, you need to put those 4 team feats instead of the feats I told you. Trever doesn't have a spell book, and you can check advanced stats over here. And up we go. Now, his abilities, I'm gonna hover over everything, pause when you need to, and let's go. A shitload of feats on Trever. How do we play Trever? Pretty much simple, okay? What you need to use is Rage before entering the fight. If you go in second, you're gonna use Cleave. If you go in first with Trever, you won't use Cleave. Of course, you're gonna use Smite Chaos on enemies or Smite Evil on enemies. Keep it for tougher fights, for bosses, for extremely hard enemies, alright? Do not forget to use Pile Driver and Pile Driver Bull Rush, alright? Trip and Bull Rush in combat, depends on an enemy you're fighting with. The squishier the enemy, the better the chance that this two will work. Alright, do not use it on huge enemies, never. Okay, only on squishies, mage type enemies, alright, archers and so on. Basically, Cleave should be turned on for all of the encounters in the game. Expect harder encounters and boss fights, or when you want to use less stand, you switch it off and you ram it in with classic attacks. Okay, he can swing 5 times in a row with hilarious attack and hilarious damage. So that's all, of course, if you decide to play with Trever. But trust me, you can make a better merc, alright? Trever, I don't even know why he exists, alright? He could prove extremely useful during Threshold, when it's hardest, alright, because of his crazy stats. But you need a perfect team composition for him to be valid. If you really want to play with Trever, I would not recommend him for Unfair, even though I said he can be useful. He is way much more useful on easier difficulties for people that just don't want to think way too much and they just want to right click on enemies, okay? Because this one doesn't have that many options and it's very easy to play. Lann, Unfair build. If it works on Unfair, it will work on all other difficulties as well. So, let's go. Here, you can check the stats for Lann. I kept him as a Zen Archer Monk till the very end because the class is absolutely broken, okay? His stats are extremely good, attack is way too good to be honest, and I haven't applied all buffs. There is more to apply, you can raise this up to plus 80. Damage is extremely good, armor class is great considering we don't have any armor as a monk, and all of the saves are close to 50 or above 50, which is extremely good for Unfair. From skills, Lann will need Perception the most, Stealth and Mobility. After that you ramp up Athletics and Lord Nature, but stick with these three because they're the most important. Now let's check Lann's inventory and what to use for Lann. The first one would be a helmet, plus 8 to all stats, okay, perfection. Before that, well, it's early game, you need the one that's gonna raise wisdom, okay, plus 2, plus 4, plus 6, then into perfection helmets, plus 4, plus 6, plus 8. Simple as that. Amulet of quick draw. There is no better amulet in the game, not for Lann, but for any character that's gonna use a ranged weapon. As far as goggles go, goggles of Malocchio are the way to go. There are no better ones again for any ranged character. Cape, cloak, classic from plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as you make progress. For under armor, Hex Demise. First it looks cool, the second you are resistant against necromancy. For the first ring, I took Merciless Shot because of a point blank. For the second ring, it's Ring of Guiding Star. If you open in a surprise round with Lann and hit someone, your entire party will benefit and get plus 3 to damage. For bracers, you will want to stick with everything that raises attacks, and lesser bracers of archery does that. As far as belt goes, Belt of Perfection for late game. Before that you want to raise dexterity and strength. You take strength dexterity belt plus 2 plus 4, after that is perfection plus 4 plus 6 plus 8. For gloves, no better gloves than Surefire gloves. There's nothing to say about it. They apply piercing, they apply bleed. They're great when you play with a point blank. For boots, sure-footing boots. First attack, ranged weapon. Scales with perception. Absolutely OP for damage, by the way, because Lann has huge perception. For a bow, classic from plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until you reach Leeching Strike, and that's the one you wanna keep. Lann's mythic leveling. The first one is no brain less stand. The second one would be weapon focus on a weapon you decide to play with, whether it's a longbow or a short bow. I recommend a longbow. The bigger they are, for level 3, on level 4, improved critical mythic. On level 5 would be ranging shots. On level 6, weapon specialization, mythic into longbow. On level 7, expose vulnerability. On level 8, point blank shot mythic, and that's when you're gonna transfer into point blank shot longbow machine. For 9, Rupture Restraints, resist all of those negative effects from enemies. And from 10, you can put a lot of different things on 10. I placed Improved Initiative Mythic, but frankly 5 or 6 are valid here. Lann's classic leveling, we open up with feats and then we're gonna transfer to Monk Zen Archer and see what we took over there. Combat reflexes, that's how he starts. Then we go into Deadly Aim, we go into Improved Initiative, we go into a Snapshot, we go into Improved Critical Longbow, we go into Critical Focus, we go into Hammer the Gap, we go into Armor Proficiency Light Armor because there's nothing else to use, alright? You can easily delete this for a team feat and we're gonna do it nice and easy. Daeran critical, and at the end Iron Will. Now we gonna need Seize the Moment, Shake It Off, Precise Strikes, and Outflank for team feats to place over here. So the first one we're gonna exchange is Iron Will, the second one is Armor Proficiency Light Armor, the third one can be a Snapshot, the fourth one can be Deflect Arrows, or Dodge, or Cluster Shots, or Tiring Critical. I gave you like 8 options to switch for, and you must switch for Seize the Moment, Shake It Off, Precise Strike, and Outflank. I would recommend putting Shake It Off, Precise Strike, and Outflank very early, and then ramp up everything else. Now from a monk he receives Point Blank Shot, and then we gonna pick True Strike for the first skill, Sudden Speed also, very important to have, Abundant Step so you can traverse the map, Diamond Body, Shout, Diamond Soul, Restoration Classic, and at the end it's Quivering Palm. Anyone that's close you can explode them. He also receives Snapshot here. From over here we go with a Precise Shot, we go with Improved Precise Shot, we go with Cluster Shots, we go with Dodge, and we go with Deflect Arrows. I already said what you can switch for team feats from here and from over here. He is also gonna receive a Point Blank Master on a longbow. Here you can check advanced stats, and off we go to abilities. I'm gonna hover everywhere here, pause when you need to, let's go. How to play Lann. Lann is one of the very few companions that's valid from level 1 to level 20 equally. He's equally great in every act, on every map. He's just extremely good. Alright, so early on you would like to kite enemies with sudden speed. You apply sudden speed, you're faster than everything that moves in Act 1, 2 and 3 on the map, and you can kite them out. Very simple, you put your units, I don't know, over here. If the enemies are over there, you go alone with Lann, you play speed, and you kite enemies all the way back to your team. Okay, through the entire map. That's one of the easiest ways and the most cheesiest ways to resolve fights. So basically Lann is strong enough to solo most of the fights, believe it or not. That is, if you know how to kite. Before opening fights with Lann from sneaking, you will want to apply Key Power through strikes. You hit, well, basically 100% because his attack is high. This just raises it even more. Let's see. You see. You can go even higher with some of the domains, like Madness it will go to 87, Guidance 88, Destruction will raise damage even further, 50 to 90. This can easily be from 90 to 100 attack, if not even above 100 attack, to like 50 to 100 damage, so completely freaking broken. Once and if it happens that enemies get way too close to Lann, you can consider using a Quivering Palm and try to explode enemy in front of you. This is a one-shot skill basically when it works, and if it works, it will work on hard and below. It won't work that well on unfair. At the end, how do we play? You can trigger Perfect Strike later on for him to trigger it on its own, alright? And you basically switch between Extra Power and Keep Power. You keep clicking them 2-5, 2-5, 2-5 on every round, okay? While he shoots. That's about it, simple as that. What Lann provides for the team is speed, utility, a lot of good skills, okay, including the most important one being perception. You won't miss a thing on a map. He scales like freaking crazy, because monks are really crazy, because they don't need armor and they go with their armor and with their saves up through the roof. Okay, broken class, basically, whether they're ranged or melee. That's how it is. Attack is great, damage is great, critical is hilarious, his point blank is absolutely stronger than classic attacks, okay, so playing a point blank. When enemies are weaker, you go with deadly aim on. When they're stronger, you switch up deadly aim. That's about it. Learn to kite with sudden speed and the game will become a lot easier. Just place all of your team members far away, switch up the AI, use Lann only and go with him. Open fights, kite back, when you see it's his round, stand, shoot, repeat. You can switch off point blank when you kite, of course, for a bigger range. Once they get close to your team, you switch to point blank, stand behind your team and start fighting. That's the entire tactics for Lann. Camellia build for unfair difficulty. Remember, if it works on unfair, it will work on all other difficulties as well. Camellia is like mega carry during Act 1, very solid during Act 2, and then it all depends how you wanna play her. Alright. Quite simple. This character, she can be played as a melee, rapier, huge crit. Alright, she can be played as transmutation, spellcaster. She can be played as evocation, electricity, spellcaster. She can be played as buffer. So a lot of different ways for Camellia here, and of course tons of hexes also, because she's a spirit shaman, spirit hunter. So I made a classic crit melee with Camellia. Don't look at numbers that much over here, because this with proper domains can go up to plus 90 and well above plus 100 attack if you have specific domains on other characters and so on, specific buffs. Not to mention that this is my legend run and she missed like 3 mythic levels. Alright, but all in all, let's see how to level her up properly for melee build. For ranged builds, okay, I mean for spellcasting builds, you can check how I made Nenio or Daeran and apply the same thing on her, only with different elemental damage type. From skills, she needs trickery and she needs lore religion. Everything else doesn't matter that much. Items, very simple over here. We need wisdom and charisma, alright, for the helmet. Early on in the game, it's all wisdom. Mid-game, wisdom charisma mix. Later on, if you decide to play her as melee, she can also profit well out of helmets that give flat armor class +2, for example. As far as amulet goes, when she is played as melee, it's natural armor. When not, it's any amulet that will raise her spell damage. Same can be said about goggles for melee, piercing gaze for others, something that's gonna raise DC or spell penetration. If you play as a melee, Karamaki is a solid option. If not, she doesn't even need an armor when she stays behind. For the robe of transmutation is best if you decide to play her as transmutation spirit hunter. For the first ring, we took ring of protection, since from +1 to +6, of course, as the game goes, cause we are making her as a melee. For the second ring, again, she's a melee, ring of evasion. These rings, they depend a lot on the build. Again, there are different rings for different type of builds, whether you want to play her as transmutation, whether you want to play her as evocation, or a classic buffer. This is a melee version, so armor class and evasion on her. For the belt, it's classic perfection belt. She needs dexterity as the main stat. Late game, it's physical perfection belts. For gloves and bracers, again, same story. You need something that's gonna raise overall damage, okay? Bonuses to CMD and so on, or flat armor bonuses and some passives that will nuke enemies and so on. For and when you play her as a caster, this story completely changes. You need gloves and bracers that gonna raise spell pen, DC, something if you have for transmutation, for evocation, things like that. Spirit trackers are the best option for her because they raise spirit weapon enchantment ability per day. For weapons, it's classic rapiers into small shields, bucklers. Now let's check Mythic Path. As I said, this was the run when I was a legend, okay? So she is missing level 9 and 10. So, first things first. Last Stand as the first one is a no-brain. After that, it's Mythic weapon focus on a rapier. After that, it's Nature because of the animal companion over here. Mastodon. I took Mastodon, take whatever you like. For level 4, improved critical on rapier, Mythic. Rupture Restraints to negate all of that disgusting crowd control from enemies. Weapon specialization into rapier. A leading strike for number 7. For number 8, it's gonna be flawless attacks. For number 9, we can take unrelenting assault. And for number 10, we can take mythic toughness. That's why I'm saying the numbers will go way much higher, okay, with specific domains and when you have full mythic leveling available. Okay, this is a legend path, so that's why she's a bit weaker. She can be extremely strong. This can go to 100, this can go from 50 to 100. Classic leveling. I said, if you want a player as a caster, you will check my Nenio or Daeran guide and just switch elemental damage for electricity. And keep everything else, like spell penetration, evocation, schools, and so on. You just copy-paste that with different type of elemental damage and you're good to go. It's very simple to build her like that. This is a melee Camellia, so she starts with a weapon finesse, then we're gonna transfer into weapon focus rapier, then we're gonna transfer into fencing grace rapier. After that it's shake it up, after that it's outflank, after that it's gonna be improved critical on a rapier. After that, it's precise strikes. After that, we go with combat reflexes to grab seize the moment. And critical focus. One final level will go into a fighter for a free feat, so we take Hammer the Gap once you're level 20. Now we're gonna check her hexes. The first one you take is Protective Luck. It will carry you all the way through Act 1. After that, it's an Ice Plant. After that, it's a Ward. After that, it's Hampering Hex. Then an Evil Eye. Battle Master, Battle Ward. Now I'll hover over every ability here, pause when you need to, and let's go. Spellbook for Camellia. This varies a lot from like 3 and onwards, depends on the build of course, but it's pretty much the same. At the start of the game you're gonna use Divine Zap, you're gonna use Guidance from cantrips. After that it's classic Bless, Remove Fear, Bane, some Burning Hands, Sleep, and Entangle would be bread and butter skills for Act 1, especially Entangle. This is the best option you can get. You just entangle the entire screen, enemies take time to reach you, you can burst them out before they get to you. Extremely good to have 2 or 3 of those at the start of the game. For level 2, it's the same story, but this time it's thickening entanglement. Okay, again the entire screen, again mega slow, and again you have enough time to deal with enemies. If you ask me, Camellia is like extremely useful during that Act 1, and she carries hard in Act 1. Of course, protection from alignment and bark skin are classic. For level 3, Camellia starts with distraction, or better to say with animate dead 4 times. Delay poison communal is also cool, and you're gonna take for a spirit magic slot classical magical Westman. Now, spirit magic slots, they will go into Torn Body, so she retaliates damage. After that, we take some self buffs, divine power. We want self buffs with Camellia, because this is melee Camellia, and we want Camellia to hurt. Okay. Classic Restoration, Stone Skin, and again Spike Stones, they can carry you through Act 2. From level 5, again self buffs, Aspect of the Wolf, alright? And that should be the most important one. The rest that you can learn is True Seeing, Animal Growth, Cave Fangs, Baleful Polymorph, and Break Enchantment. For 6 AoE buffs for your entire team, including True Seeing and Stone Skin Communal, AoE Stone Skin. There's not much to say here, just cast everything before entering the fight and that's it. For level 7, we're gonna take Wine Trap into Legendary Proportions, into Ice Body, a bit of Heal, and Cloak of Dreams that you're gonna apply before entering combat. For level 8, Classic Frightful Aspect, it's great on Camellia, and that would be the most important one here. For level 9, once you expand all other spells, you can always shape change into a different type of animal and fight like that. Of course, Foresight to raise armor, Winds of Vengeance to raise that movement speed, and Elemental Swarm for some distraction. So how do we play Camellia? Again, for late game, you're gonna have domains, okay, especially if you play on harder difficulties, so these numbers, they will go up, alright. With Madness, with Guarded Heart, with True Strike, and so on, they can reach easy 100, and she can hurt like crazy, alright? That will be for the late game. For early game, I already said how it goes. It goes with Bless on your entire team, remove Fear into Entangle on enemies, and then you wait for your ranged characters, Lann or Wenduag, to pick them off. Okay, Woljif can also cast early game those magic missiles, Nenio can do it too, Daeran can cast Bone Shaker, and enemies will take time to reach your team. Once they reach, you're gonna trigger Spirit Weapon Enchantment, alright, and you're gonna trigger Battle Spirit and enter the fight with Camellia. Again, for early game, ramp up the Sickening Entanglement, and it's an easy win. Did not forget about Barkskin on Seelah, for example. Later on, you will want to distract enemies with Animate Dead and keep those entangles on the floor. For level 4, on top of all of those entanglements, now you're gonna have Spike Stones too, so enemies will be mega slowed, and you can kite them out for straight 2 minutes in a row until they reach. On 5, you start buffing up yourself with Aspect of the Wolf and enter those fights in melee. By that time, you should have Guarded Heart available on someone, so she's gonna be quite crazy from level 5 and above. Especially on level 6 when you grab all of these. The first one that you should learn is through seeing Communal if no one else has it, and if someone else has this one, then you go with a Stone Skin Communal. After that, it's Classic Legendary Proportions, Ice Body, Heal from time to time, and Trap, and of course Cloak of Dreams for enemy to sleep around you. After that, it's Frightful Aspect, as I said, very useful on Camellia, a bit of summons for distractions, and it ends up all with Elemental Swarm as a summon and some movement speed buffs on Camellia. Basically, as I said, this is a melee build. It requires other companions to have specific domains for her to be actually good, to pass that 80-90 attack and starts to hurt, alright? In early game, she's mega carry, she completely falls off during mid game, and again she becomes a mega carry during the final act. That's how Camellia is. That's if you decide to play with a melee. If you decided to play with Storm Bolts, okay, Storm Camellia, I said copy my build for Daeran or for Nenio. You're just gonna switch elemental damage and you're gonna start playing with Storm Bolts. Alright, if you go with Ice Camellia, or better to say, if you copy my Nenio build for Camellia, then you're gonna go with Ice Storm. Okay, you're gonna equip Ring that gives different ice spells and you're gonna play with that. If you go with Fire Camellia Evocation, then you're gonna play with Red Salamander Ring and you're gonna start using Firestorm. For Cold Camellia, you will use Tsunami. As I said, this character, she can be played in like 6 or 7 different ways. I gave you melee option and I explained how others work. All you need to do is to copy from Nenio or from Daeran build and you're good to go. Do not forget to switch elemental damage, of course. There is one more companion in the game. It's Queen Galfrey. She comes late, okay, into the game. A classic paladin, 20 levels into paladin. Basically, everything I did for Seelah, copy and paste if you wanna play with Galfrey. Including all gear, all spells, everything, like absolutely everything I did on Seelah's guide, apply on Queen Galfrey. And that's about it.